Welcome back to the party, everybody. This is Morty, and I am your host, Lutch, aka TheIndianJesus, here to resurrect the second coming of common sense. Everybody hit that like and subscribe. You know I would do it for you, and let's party. And when I say party, we about to party. Welcome to Rob Noerr. Very, very, very good to see you, sir. How are you?
Thank you. It's amazing to be here. I don't have a clever religious themed name. I guess I'd be sort of like Redneck Buddha or something like that. I don't know.
That one works. That one works.
I once claimed to be Buddha in a debate. Believe it or not, it won me around. How about that?
That would help. And let's shout out a couple of people in the chat. We got Melted Mind Media. Oh yeah, definitely. Oh, that's why. That's why it is a StreamYard issue with Rumble. But yeah, Hassan is just getting worse and worse and worse. Welcome. We got Rubber Never Lucky, Rubber Ducky in the building, and of course the Steel Man. Welcome. Yeah, StreamYard's being a little fucky, so if something goes wrong, just let me know. But we have the amazing Rob Noerr here, and I think it is overdue that there's somebody who is better at talking, better at reading, better at not better at reading, but better at keeping up with reading stuff, and to be able to sit down and be like, okay, what is it that you do believe, and why is it bullshit, or why is it not bullshit? And I can't think of anyone better.
Well, let's see. Better looking, better singer maybe than you. Who knows? Who knows what we'll find out tonight? No, it's my pleasure to be here. I know we have sort of tangentially hit on circles, but I don't know that we've ever directly interacted. So I'm very much looking forward to it. I think it's going to be a great show.
Very cool. Very cool. So for the people who, for some reason, don't know who you are, why don't you I'll give you the floor and shout out what you do, where they can find you, and anything good.
So what, we have 2 hours here. Okay. Rob Noerr, my channel is Normal America with Rob Noerr on YouTube. Then you can find me at Normal America or Rob Noerr on places like Rumble, Twitter, I guess X now, and other platforms. I've lived in the same area my whole life, rural Pennsylvania here, within about a 20-minute circumference. I was a drunk in high school. I graduated the year of 9/11, went to college, took a debate course, and decided, instead of doing a paper for the final, to do a debate. Sort of got hooked on collegiate debate. That was my first foray into politics. I was interested in it to win games, and this game just happened to be debate. Got pretty good at policy debate, qualified for the national debate tournament my fourth year in debate. Then I was a debate coach and judge for about 5-6 years. Ended up running for Congress in a special election in District 12 in Pennsylvania in 2019. I didn't win. And ever since then, I've sort of been a streamer. Did it as a hobby for a long time. The job I had before I quit and went full-time streaming here about 6 months ago was home healthcare with adults with intellectual disabilities like autism. I did that 14 years straight at the company I was at, and then off and on for 2 years prior to that. So it was a job that I very much enjoyed, but it paid like crap, and it was something that took all of my time because I was there 24/7. And I had a son 4 years ago, so I wanted to have more time at home. So now I'm a full-time streamer, and I sit on my ass talking for a living, and I couldn't be happier. So that's it in a nutshell.
Living the dream, brother. Living the dream. So you do have a more formal debate history. You know what? There was a friend who was like, "Yo, you would love this. We should do this in high school." And I don't know what it was, but maybe I felt like I was too cool for it or something, and I just walked out.
You were, I assure you. that would be the case. Anyone, if you even say, I wonder if I'm too cool for this, you absolutely are too cool. It is the nerdiest of the nerdy. Do you know the band REM?
Yeah.
Okay. They have this song, It's the End of the World as We Know It, right? That's a song about debate. So Michael Stipe, the lead singer in high school, went to a debate tournament. And in debate, everyone talks fast like auctioneers, and everything is nuclear war, right? It's always the end of the world. And so he wrote this song. It's like sort of a humorous take on how could you have all these people talking as fast as humanly possible and they got a smile on their face, but they're talking about the end of the world all the time. That was his take on it. They're talking about all these horrible scenarios with smiles on their face. Like, it's the end of the world, but I feel fine. That's the song. There you go.
Yeah, it's a good one. It always makes me think of Tommy Boy. Yeah, guys, if there's issues, we are streaming on Rob's channel, so check that out. Link in the description. I don't know what is going on, but yeah.
Are you on YouTube?
Yeah.
And that's
YouTube
where
blowing
my
up.
YouTube was giving me problems too. My audience said, I think it's a problem globally at this
Okay.
point with YouTube.
Yeah, I think so. I was having issues playing videos. I wasn't sure if it was my, if it was my ad block or whatever. I don't know, but we're doing the best that we can, guys, and we appreciate you being here. Who else we got? We got DJ Isolated. Welcome to the party, guys. Yeah. So, I just turn it off. Maybe that is. So yeah, I mean, in terms of having that background, it's something that clearly does help when you are not just debating, but trying to organize your own thoughts. And I grew up. I was born into the Catholic Church. I was confirmed in the Methodist Church, but I had never sat down and read the Bible. So I was about college age. I think I was 20-ish. Sat down and decided to read it for the first time, and had a little bit of a different experience than what I thought. But a lot of good stuff there. But I was also, learning about psychology and other areas of moral philosophy. And I just realized, for me personally, it doesn't seem like a God is necessary. Part of the reason I'm so happy you're here is because I do have a general moral structure that I follow, but I haven't really done a lot of reading on Aristotelian ethics or exactly what Albert Camus said about this. It's kind of just something that's there. So I'll even start there. How much do you feel like you directly in your mind appeal to your Christianity when making decisions?
Almost none. In fact, woefully under-equipped. I had not been to church in probably 22 years until a month ago, and I was non-denominational. So to give you a little background of me, when I was growing up, I went to this church in a little town. There was like 7 people that regularly attended, and 4 of them was me, my brother, mom, and dad. We would go down for Sunday school, me and my brother, and our Sunday school teacher was just this local washing machine mechanic, and you would have your little Bible, pamphlets that they had for kids that you'd color in, and we would just fold them up into paper footballs and play paper football. That was church, and to me it was just like, Jesus is a good guy, be a good guy. That was it. That's all I knew. Eventually the preacher left in sort of a scandalous manner, but so we didn't have a church, we didn't have a preacher. So what they would do in this little church was they'd put flyers out at churches around town, and they would just ask random people, not like legitimate ordained preachers or anything. If you wanted to come and teach a Bible lesson, you could come to this church where I was at and teach a Bible lesson. So it was sort of an amalgamation of like Catholicism, Protestant. I didn't know. To me, Jesus was a good guy growing up. I got involved in a Pentecostal church, which I could talk for hours, but needless to say, it was insane. They believe they can handle snakes and shit. It was not good. And then that made me an atheist. My experience with that was so bad. Probably by the time I was 17 or 18, I was an atheist. I ended up coming back to Christianity, but in name only, probably about 6-7 years after that, because I had friends that were Christians and I thought they were living a positive life. But I never went to church, and I wasn't very studious of the Bible. So I ultimately just had this general feeling of Christ is a figure that I should try to emulate in my life, the story of Christ, and that I ultimately believe that he was the Son of God, and that, I should strive to accept that and to make it into heaven, and then just try to generally be what I considered was a good person. And my very poor reading of the Bible was my understanding of who Jesus was and who I should emulate. And now I would say that I do not feel very confident at all at my theologian abilities, having read the Bible. It's been a long, long time since I've gone through it. I've been reading a little now, but it's not something that I feel comfortable even pontificating to other people, in the sense that it's like, well, this is what Jesus says you should do, because I know that I know next to nothing. So when I operate from a moral framework, yes, I think it vaguely comes through Christian principles, because that's what I'm looking to. But I couldn't sit here if you had a Protestant and an Orthodox and a Catholic, and it was explaining the nuanced differences. And remember when Jesus said this in the Sermon on the Mount, I'm going to be like, no, I don't know. And it's odd, because part of what I do is help people research for debates, over at the Crucible, and they'll be having some very deep, like, religious debates between certain sects and stuff. And it's funny, the one dude that works for the team over there is one of the smartest human beings I've ever seen, and he'll be like, well, yes, Rob, obviously Acts chapter 13 verse 2. I'm like, no, dude, no, I don't know.
Yeah, of course, totally.
So yeah, I don't think that it influences my morality other than in what many Christians would consider a bad Christian sense, in a very vague, I know the broad strokes. That's about it, though.
And I think that is most average people. And the reason I ask is because I don't know if you saw any of the modern day debate things I did with Andrew or Rachel Wilson. But that whole thing for modern debate was billed as Andrew Wilson versus 5 atheists. And so we all go there, and then he brings a bunch of political prompts that I agree with. I'm like, bro, what? This is supposed to be my big moment. And I genuinely don't know. I mean, I'm kind of tongue in cheek here, but I genuinely don't know if the two of them understand the difference between an atheist and a leftist. It seems like they're interchangeable. And I mean, I don't necessarily even blame someone for thinking that, but someone at Andrew's level should really be able to see that if I'm debating atheists, I should bring atheist things, or that it's not a win that I agree, my debate opponent already agrees with my prompt and has 5 minutes to try to find something else to debate about and all that stuff. What do you think of that?
Well, I obviously cannot speak for Andrew and Rachel, and I did not see that specific debate. But if I tried to see if you're accurately portraying, which I'm not saying you're not, but if that's the case, maybe this would be the case, that without a Christian framework or some sort of religious framework for your morality, then that by default makes you a secularist, which secularist would by default be leftist. Maybe that's part of the impression. Now, I wouldn't agree with that position, and here's why, right? For 2 reasons. One, and again, maybe I'll change. Maybe I'll go, I'm going to Catholic church now. The reason I chose Catholicism is my son is starting preschool at this Catholic church school, which is the same school and church my wife went to her whole life. She grew up Catholic. So we're just literally going to where she went. Maybe I'll read more of it, and then I'll have a better answer for you a year from now. But in my opinion, I thought this is what I think's moral. Take a specific situation, like abortion. And here's my situation where I think it's moral and what I think's not moral. You might be Buddhist, you might be atheist, whatever, and you might come to the same conclusion as me. So why would I care, right? And there could, so I don't care if you do things that I think are a moral framework, like you're an honest broker, you're not stealing, you're a good neighbor, like you're pleasant to talk to, you're trying to help people out. If you get there from a perspective of secularism, I really don't care. Now, if your secularist beliefs allow you to say well, therefore I think when it comes to sort of age of consent laws, they should be grotesquely lowered, I would say, no, kiss my ass. I refuse to accept that. But even if you tried to come through there through an erroneous reading of Christianity and you claim to be Christian, it's not like I would be like, oh, fair enough then. I would be like, no, I also find that unacceptable. So I do think it's difficult to argue from a sense of morality from an atheist perspective, because at the end of the day, the big debate's always been this for religion versus atheism, is this, that the offense that the atheist has is how the hell will you know you're right? Because at the end of the day, no matter what, we can take this as far as you want to go, and it's going to be an act of faith on your part. In fact, that's the point, right? At some point, you have to have faith that things that you see that are physically impossible had to be achievable. A man had to rise from the dead. They walked on water, right? All of these things, those are acts of faith, right? But the offense against the atheist is, at the end of the day, it will ultimately be subjective where you get your morality. At the end of the day, you're going to have to say, just because I think that's the way it is. If there's not a book that says this is the objective truth, here's what's right and here's what's wrong, you're going to have to make that decision yourself, and it's going to inherently be subjective.
And my pushback to that is that objective and absolute are not the same thing. And so, again, if I'm appealing to Aristotelian virtue ethics, that is an objective standard. It may not be divinely inspired, but it's not preferences even if it is, then I'll take that a step further, and I would say that also following a Christian doctrine is just your preference to follow that thing and believe that it is divine before we have any justification.
Well, it goes further than that. You could say, well, 2 Christians could read the same book and come to different conclusions on what's moral in a particular situation, right? So it becomes difficult because it's I could make a claim that my morality is objective, according to who? According to your subjective interpretation of what you think objective morality is, right?
Mhm.
At the end of the day, that's right. And, I'm not a theologian. What someone would say if you say that is, but let me explain to you why my view is correct, right? And here's why it is the objective. I'm not prepared to do that. I'm almost non-denominational. So how could I claim that my specific interpretation of Christ is the correct one when I'm admitting that I'm woefully unread and unstudied in that? But and again, I'll leave you in another little secret on me. Like when it comes to like sort of philosophical underpinnings, I'm very much like a dumb redneck. Like I'm just like I see things in my life that there are practical applications for. I have a wife, I have a child, they need to eat. The bills need to be paid. What do I have to do going forward? I want to be treated in a certain way, and so I try to treat other people in that way. And it's very simple stuff for me. I'm not the type of person that sits down and is like, why did I do this action? What was my philosophical underpinning? Like, I understand, I've argued some of these things, I've heard people make these arguments, but I'm not well read in them. So I guess I would ask you, under that admission, just give me like a broad overview of what your like moral framework would be through like Aristotelian principles.
So I think that human flourishing is the core, and I think that it's very easy to kind of act like human flourishing is too broad of a category, but I don't think that it is. I think the discussion on what we agree human flourishing is. So the basic idea is that morality and ethics should be the discussion of the greatest flourishing for all human beings, the spectrum of greatest flourishing for all human beings to the greatest suffering for all human beings. And to quote the man who has probably had the biggest fall from grace, Sam Harris, he said, if that's not what you mean when you're talking about morality, then I don't know what the fuck you're talking about. And I definitely agree with that. And the reason I'm bringing this all up is because it seems like it is such a common way to just completely brush someone off, regardless of their ideas, because of the fact that they're an atheist. Specifically with things like the secular perspective or the atheist perspective, and that doesn't mean anything. There is no such thing, at least when it comes to politics. There is no such thing as the atheist perspective. That would be like saying the dog owner's perspective. Some dog owners are left, some dog owners are right, and everywhere in between. And so again, I just come back to this notion that the right, politically, the right is closing the door on a lot of people that, like you said, maybe don't believe in God, but could be part of the coalition that could move away from the left having so much institutional control, and that's already waning, but it's certainly not gone. And the fact of the matter is, if we have an objective morality but nobody follows it, then what does it really matter?
No, listen, this is a disagreement I have with a lot of people that are fans of the Crucible. I don't know if it's a big disagreement, but I'll give you an example. So I think that practically winning in real politics is important. And I understand that that means that I'll have to coalition build with people that disagree with me on certain things. I pick and choose what I think are the highest priorities. And I think that this is the way most people should operate in a two-party system. For example, if you were to say, my highest priority is saving the lives of babies, and therefore I want abortion to be banned. And here's a gay person over here that says, I would fight hard to get abortion banned. Should you not work with them? Right? Isn't the sin of homosexuality, if that's, is less than the sin of murdering babies, and you want to stop? Again, I'm not saying you have to agree with any. I'm just saying a person's perspective that has this perspective. I myself find the most important issue that we could deal with in politics to be corruption. I think that the institutions are incredibly corrupt, and I'm willing to work with people that believe all sorts of economic things I disagree with, all sorts of cultural things I disagree with, in order to help fetter out that corruption. So someone I've worked with is Scott Pressler. Now, Scott Pressler happens to be, he's this really tall, like, always
He's a long-haired dude, right?
Long-haired dude, gay
Yeah.
dude, right? And like I put pictures up of me, like I'm at this Republican event. It's the president of the NRA. Scott Pressler's there, several congressmen, and one of the big pushbacks against, why are you hanging out with that gay guy? What's up with that? Why are we working with gay guy? And it's like, well, because I think that I'm interested in winning practically on the ground. Now, there's an argument to be had in politics. How much of yourself are you willing to give away before the party that you claim to endorse is no longer that party, right? if we bring everyone into the tent and all of a sudden things that we thought were the point of Republican values no longer apply, then what's the point that we won? It doesn't matter because we had to give up everything important to win. I understand that. There's a fine line. But to your point, I think that I have argued that this is one of the reasons that I've said, coming from a practical political perspective, I don't see the need to shut the door on anyone. I don't give a shit if you're Muslim and you're like, you know what? 95% of the political positions Rob has and the cultural positions, I totally agree. I get there through my book of the Quran. I'll be like, I don't agree with the Quran, but that's fine by me from the perspective of me working with you or living next to you, etc. So I understand the point that Andrew and them would make. Again, I haven't seen this debate, but to me, to just say like, if the argument is you're an atheist, so you're not in our group, and we don't want you to vote with us, and I disagree with that perspective. I'm sure that it's more nuanced than that.
Well, and
maybe,
I think the "we don't want you to vote with us" part is not what people are saying, but that's the result, is that we create this dichotomy, this false dichotomy of Christianity and good or everything else. And so when there's people like myself who were born into the church and are very familiar with what Christianity is, and I'm just in a position where I don't have the option to choose to be a Christian. I don't have the option to choose to believe in God any more than you can choose to stop. And so if we, again, if we're making people feel like they're automatically by default on the other team, then it's going to be a self-fulfilling prophecy that, oh, these atheists are doing this, that, and the other. It's like, yeah, that's because you won't let them into the coalition so that we can figure out where we need to go.
Again, I would have to see the specific interaction. If it was, as you're saying, I think it's a strategic mistake, right? I do think that there is a point, and I understand this from sort of the Christian nationalist perspective, which is sort of, we can't dilute what we are. For example, someone in my chat says the following. He says, most conservatives are not even a thing I'm willing to fight for. Too many promote open drug use, non-traditional families. They're just 2016 liberals.
Yeah,
I understand that perspective. And it's like, yeah. So for example, for me, one of the things I argued with is a practical look at things is right now in this country, banning all abortion is a non-winner, right? You're going to have to settle for something like safe, legal, and rare. Like after first trimester, we ban them. Now, from the perspective of someone who thoroughly believes that's baby murder, why would they ever compromise with any position other than, no, I will not justify the murder of one baby so that my taxes are lowered. No, I'm sorry. I cannot do it. And I understand
that's just not how it works. And I completely
that's
agree
not how
with
it works practically, but from a moral framework, you would understand it. Right. And
two different camps.
I'll get back to your moral framework here in a second, but my guess is, and I'm just guessing, seeing as how I know Andrew and Rachel some, that probably what's going on is they're in debate mode. And they're like, this is supposed to be about Christianity versus atheism. And so in order to win this debate, we are going to say where atheism logically leads. It leads to secularism. It leads to degeneration, etc. And so even if you were like, look, I happen to be an atheist that doesn't believe in this. Like, let's, for the sake of argument, say you're an atheist that doesn't believe that homosexuality is moral. I don't know that, but let's say that's the case. Okay. So a Christian wouldn't be able to say, you believe in immoral degeneracy like homosexuality. You'd be like, no, I don't. Like, what are you talking about? Their argument would be, and yet your moral framework makes that inevitable. And that's why we're saying, as an atheist, in the context of this debate that we're having here, this 5-on-1, again, I don't know. I would have to ask Andrew specifically. I would have to have been there to see what was going on with the lead up. And you know this. Oftentimes, if you do enough of these debates, sometimes there's confusion on what the expectation was from each side, what they thought was going to be debated. So I can't speak. I can't speak. I'll say one thing I can speak to is I've been to one of these modern day debates, like Jubilee style things. It too was a shit show. So I believe you there wholeheartedly. Yeah. But I don't know. Now, if you're at DebateCon, and Andrew's there and I'm there and you're there and we're all sitting at a bar having a beer and you're like, look, man, okay, I don't believe in God, whatever, but listen, 95% of what you want is exactly what I think the excesses of the left. It's fucking crazy. We need to fight back against this. I can't imagine that he'd be like, get the fuck out of my face. No, we refuse. I don't think that would be the case, you know?
Yeah, but when I recorded that was at the DebateCon that was in Jersey. And yeah, me, him, Jake, we were all hanging out. I think... No, I had lunch with Craig, the guy that he debated on stage, and I was like, bro, this is not good. And it's a matter of, you've probably noticed that in the debate world, the discussion or the topic has switched from does God exist to is Christianity better for society than secular humanism? Because that is a winning fucking topic. Because my opinion on secular humanism is that it's a great way to determine what is right and what is wrong. But it's missing a crucial factor that religion has, the incentive to do what is right and wrong. Right. It's not just good enough to know what is right and wrong. It's how you do that. But I don't think that God is the only way that we can get there. Now, a lot of times I'll get the pushback that like, okay, well, if not Christianity, then what? And I don't know yet. I'm just some dude being like, hey, maybe we can do something better. And we certainly can't do anything better if everybody's like, no, we can't do anything better. And
well, I mean, from the perspective of my belief structure, if I'm a Christian and you're like, maybe there's an improvement on that, I'm probably going to say, no, dog, that's not for me. But as far like it's an interesting, let's start under the assumption that somehow me and you both knew that there is no God, right? That like, let's just start with that. It's like, okay, I used to say when I was an atheist, I would make this claim. It was like, you know what separates me from the Christians? I don't need the threat of burning in hell to not murder someone. I don't need that. I can operate as a decent moral human being without eternal punishment or eternal reward as the carrot and stick mechanism to get there. Because now, and you know, someone might have said, where do you get your system of morality? And even if I didn't have a good answer, I would say, judge me by my works. Do I seem like I'm doing some terrible shit? Or am I basically operating in what you would expect a normal Christian to be operating? And I think that I kind of am. So that was sort of my answer. But now I've realized something very dark. Even if God wasn't real, even if he wasn't, I don't think the majority of a society could live like that. I think that a majority of a society, if you were to tell them there is no consequence, there is no reward structure, there is no penalty structure, shit's going to quickly go off the rails.
Well, but even if that's not the case, though, it wouldn't be. There's no rewards, there's no punishment. It's just that it is an earthly thing, and the fact that we already have the nation that we have, it's not like we would wipe out Christianity. It would be, as we're already seeing, Christianity itself is being watered down by, what did Adam just say? I've seen Christians arguing that LGBT is okay and in the Bible. Like the watering down of that is, we're already there, I guess is my point. We're already there where there's a lot of hedonism. There's a lot of turning away from what many people would call God, whether we're talking about, the Yahweh, the Christian God, or some idea of the highest good or whatever it is. People are not moving towards that. And this idea that, well, you need Christianity. We already have Christianity, but it's clearly not as effective. And of course, not going to say that, like you said yourself, that you fell away from your faith for a while, but as you got older, you come back to it. And I think that's a common thing. But I think when people go through that phase, if there is more discussion of, it's not just, okay, I'm turning my spirituality off and I'm doing whatever I want to do, but I'm actually exploring, I'm learning about how the brain, registers beliefs and how we can get our memories wrong and how we can misattribute things that we saw or felt, or and then other moral structures that people have already developed. And I think putting all of that together is a big project for sure. But I mean, what's more important?
Do you understand, though, what makes religion unique? Well, first, let's just say this. I think that I don't have the data in front of me. And again, it's not something I debate because this discussion we're having is one thing, right? But to go on and have a formal debate on a specific denomination of Christianity, I would feel would be almost blasphemous on my part, because I know I don't know enough to try to speak for others that are in a faith. So I'm talking only in a broad sense. I'm not speaking as a Catholic here or for Catholics. I don't want anyone to get it twisted, because I'll get some Catholics messaging me like, what the hell? You have no idea what you're talking about. I'm fully admitting I don't. So hear me out there. But first off, most of the metrics show that as people get more serious about a Christian faith, that objective standards for happiness increase. Crime goes down, happiness goes up, success in life and the ways that we metric it tend to go up. Secondly, I think that we can see historically, as countries have become more secular, things have eventually rotted much quicker and things have got worse. You can see Mao's China. You could see a lot of what was going on in the Soviet Union, etc. So I think that it gets to the third point, and this is the point that I really want to hammer home. The difference between incentive structures or punishment structures in this world versus incentive structures or punishment structures from an all-seeing being, right, is completely different. Because if we just say, no matter how scientific you want to make it, no matter how much secular humanists want to argue, at the end of the day, it will merely come down to a show of force. If I can get away with it, if I could be the strongman and say, you know what, am I allowed to swear here? Okay. If I say,
the very naughty words.
Fuck you, IndianJesus, I'm going to take your shit. And guess what? I got the military to do it, and there ain't shit all you could do about it. Then what's to stop me from doing that? At least when it comes to a framework like Christianity or other monotheistic religions, probably even polytheistic religions, there's an eternal what? There's the great Santa Claus. He knows when you're sleeping. He knows when you're awake. And you can't hide from that. You can't hide from those consequences. Now, for me, I didn't need that, I think, but maybe I did. Maybe it's my hubris, because I'm a neurotic fucking mess. When I lay down in bed, I think of all the things I've done that could even slightly be wrong, and I feel terrible. I think of jokes that I told and insulted someone in 10th grade, 30 years ago, and I'm just like, what am I doing? Why did I say that? I wonder if that person's all right. But I don't know that as a society that everyone has that self-check, and they might say, there are people that SA women, right? It's that part of their brain there that says, oh my God, I feel bad. Or are they like, I got away with it. It's okay.
There's both. But I do think, again, if we bring it back to the political realm, that we are at such a huge advantage when we are, I know you said you personally are not, trying to keep anybody out who is voting your way, has your values. But that is a huge issue. And the fact of the matter is the rhetoric around atheism. I was just listening to Alex Jones on Tucker, and he was like, they were talking about, the occultists and everything. And like, yeah, the secular atheists. It's like, maybe, but like, that's such a small part of it. And I think even the atheists don't understand that dichotomy is a false one, that it's not Christianity or nothing. And I think that is the message that we need to get the people who do have that check when they are laying awake at night and thinking about that, whether they believe or not. Then we all together have that coalition that controls society, whether it's by force or otherwise. We win. There's a lot less bad people who really want to be bad than there are people who generally want to just go along to get along.
Well, but look at it this way. Maybe, right? But it's not as if the bad people think they're bad. The bad people think that because they have a moral framework that is subjective, that they can shoehorn anything they want into that. So right now, I think one of the defining characteristics of many people on the left who tend to vote for the Democratic Party is they assume their opponents are evil. Right? And therefore, they justify doing what they want. Just today, in front of the Supreme Court, we saw the person arguing for sort of the argument to have racially segregated districts, or districts that are defined by race. She was asked specifically by Justice Gorsuch, do you think that the government has the right to discriminate based on race? And her response to that is, I think the government has the right to use it to address past racial injustices. In other words, they'll make a claim for self-defense. So I might say to you, you don't get to just hit me. And you'd say, except in cases of self-defense. And I'd say, well, sure, if I'm raining blows upon you, of course, both in a legal sense, but more importantly in this context, in a moral framework, we accept basically most people's morality would say, sure, if someone's punching you, you could punch back. But what if someone's discriminating against you? Do you get to discriminate back? Sure, maybe. Okay, well, I think that you're discriminating against me. And you'd be like, but how? I just feel you are. I just think you are. I think you're racist. There, now what? And if you're going to be racist to me, I get to be racist to you. And I think your words are violence. And I think that's violence against me. So therefore, I get to use violence against you. And I think you're committing a trans genocide. And you know what? I have trans friends. And if you're allowed to genocide them, well, and that's the problem we get into, because you can shoehorn. But I'll just finish this real quick. Like because you can shoehorn that mentality in. It's not that, well, we won't get to the position where 50% or more of the people in this country are evil. Maybe. But they're not calling themselves evil. They're calling themselves morally virtuous. And because there's not some objective higher power that they're looking to that says this is what's right, this is what's wrong, they're able to just justify anything they want. Now, the truth is you could do that under Christianity too through a false reading. I understand that. But at least there's some standard to appeal to. What's the standard that I could appeal to a lefty? I have no clue. I have no clue what the standard could be.
And so, and I think a lot of people don't know the answer to that question because, again, going back to, well, Christianity is the answer. And I do agree that as a single unit, I don't think there is a better single unit moral structure that humanity has today than Christianity. My whole thing is that I think that, or not even I think, but it's not impossible that we could do better. Whether that is, just strictly morally, whether that is culturally, or whether that is specifically getting close to God. Like a lot of people talk about how, God is unknowable and all that stuff. I mean, that's a whole other conversation, but let's say that's the case. So I'll put my hand right out of the frame. God's up here. And let's say, if you're a typical leftist atheist, you're all the way down here, and it goes up and up and up and up. And Christianity brings you all the way up here. All I'm saying is, are we sure there's nothing else? Are we sure there's nothing else? Because if there is, and it applies to people, like the people who are like, well, I don't believe in the sky daddy kind of thing, then how is that not better?
Well, let me. I think that you could point to reality and make your claim quite easily, but all you would have to say is you can't envision a society that would work even better. It's this sort of, let's take religious out of it for a second, right? It's like there's so many problems with capitalism, right? But it's the best system we got. It's better than all the other ones. That doesn't mean that it can't get better. We should always strive to make it better. So now let's do it in the context of morality, right? And we can say, even if Christianity is the best we have now, you could look around and see problems in the world, right? We have Christianity now, and there are problems in the world. So theoretically, is there room to improve? I don't think you're wrong to point to reality and suggest that. However, I think from a Christian perspective, you've already answered your question. Like, yes, there's room to improve, and the room to improve is all humans are fallible. We all fall short of the grace of God. And so we could seek to get even better in our relationship with God through a Christian faith, which would mean the very metrics you would point to and say, see, there's room for improvement. Sure, if we get closer to God. Now, you may make the argument, I don't think that's the default truth. That's not my belief set. And so I think there are possible ways outside the framework of Christianity that we could get to metrics. Like, let's say if me and you sat down and said, what would be the ideal society we envision? No murder, no one's hungry, et cetera, et cetera. We come up with a bunch of lists, and you could say, could there theoretically be a system that doesn't use Christianity at all? In fact, maybe it doesn't even use religion, but we've somehow structured morality and enough people bought in that we could lead to a better system than we have today. Possibly, but I think that could also be true through a Christian framework as well. So in debate, we would call this a non-unique argument. You're right, you identify something, we should always strive for improvement, but I don't think that Christianity is at the end point, that this is as high as we can get with Christianity. I think we could get much, much higher.
You're saying within
the framework of Christianity. Now, I'm not saying that outside. Let's say I could be convinced by you or many other people, no matter what, I'll never be Christian. And so based on the framework that you're using, right, is it possible for you to adapt an even better framework? It could be impossible within your own framework to be, what's the word I would use, more adherent to your own framework of what morality is, or perhaps you will eventually adapt a framework that is even better that's still not Christianity. I would agree with that. I think that I'm not a relativist that thinks that all moral frameworks are equal. Even if I'm a Christian, I could say, well, I prefer your version of Aristotelian ethics versus someone's version of secular humanism versus someone else's version of Islam. I could tier those and which ones I think would be a better set of ethics. So perhaps you will find a better set of ethics. I'm merely making the claim that correctly acknowledging that we have a long, long way to go in society until we achieve a much closer to perfect society does not mean that Christianity's reached its limit. In fact, quite the opposite. I think the further we get away from Christianity, the worse it is. And we each as individuals and as a society have a long, long way to go to achieve the goals set forth by Jesus.
But then why do you think if Christianity is such so much of the answer, then why do you think that we're seeing such a turn away from it?
Well, it depends. Like, believe it or not, in the past couple months, Bible sales through the roof, church attendance through the roof, etc. I think the reason
call that the ortho bro bump. The ortho bro bump.
Well, I think the Charlie Kirk shit had a lot to do. I went to church for the first time in 22 years because of Charlie Kirk. I mean, so I think you're seeing a lot. Now, we'll see if it's lasting.
Dilly Charlie Kirk.
For me, I hope it's lasting. But yeah, maybe a lot of people peters out and only 5% stick. Nonetheless, I think the reason's evident. Like, it's the same reason that you see other things that we think are objectively good for society, like men becoming strong, men becoming, or not just men, people becoming well-read, etc.
Mhm.
Why have we stopped? Because we're lazy, because society's easy. Right? Because there's all these things at our fingertips. We don't have to be out there hunting and gathering every day because we have abundance, and not to get too cliche, but, good times create weak men. That's where we're at.
Yep.
We're at the good times. When the shit hits the fan, and it will, and I'm not predicting like next week, I'm just saying that's life, right? Like all empires collapse. It's just true. Time is undefeated, right? When it happens, we'll see. There are no atheists in foxholes, they say. I don't believe that literally, but the thrust of what they're suggesting is the worse shit gets, the more you turn to a higher power for answers. And so I think that a lot of the turn away has been because, quite frankly, secularism and sin has been allowed to creep in because we have such abundance, because of the framework that was set forth in this country and by great men who used a Christian framework to lay the groundwork for where we're at.
So then in your perfect world, then everybody would be a pious Christian, or at least
no.
Okay.
Well, I mean, perfect. That's hard.
No, your perfect world.
I guess,
everyone would be a
because
pious
in my perfect world, then getting to heaven would be something that I would want for everyone, and believing that Christ is the Son of God would be a precursor of that. But if we take that out, if we take, in my perfect world, everyone would act within the principles outlined in Christianity, even if they chose to do it through a different framework, which could hypothetically be possible. I would argue that I don't think it's practically possible, though, without a belief in Christianity, for society at large to act that way. I think it's possible for individuals, right? But as a society at large, I don't know that it's possible, because I think that a lot of people, and I don't know if it's over 50% or if it's a substantial minority of people, like 20% or something like that, but there's a lot of people that need that inherent reward punishment structure in order to do the right thing. And I just don't know if people are willing to make that choice. I mean, there's problems. Like, you should talk to some, like, here's something I've been struggling with. Like, I had one of the big supporters of my channel, me, got in a big row about this, and I've only seen him back one time since. He's pissed. The idea of forgiveness. Should I forgive the assassin of Charlie Kirk? And I'm like, I don't know. I don't know what forgiveness means, right? I understand that forgiveness, to me, this is what I think it means. Do I accept that if this person becomes truly repentant, that they should be left into heaven, and that God should forgive them because they've accepted Christ and they have become repentant? Sure, I accept that. I will. Does that mean that I say I am no longer mad at what you did? Maybe that's what some people say forgiveness, but I don't know how I could do that, right? And Christianity, one of the flaws of it, though I don't think it's really a flaw, but it's something, because we are weak in our Christian faith, that's exploitable, is this idea of the turn the other cheek. So we can aggress upon you, and if you ever get mad about it, now tisk tisk, you're not supposed to get mad, you're supposed to forgive. To which I would say, well,
politically is not a good way to go about it.
Politically, that's a terrible thing. And then, even still, I only forgive a person that's sorry, even outside of a religious sense, right? Like, if you steal from me and I'm like, hey, TheIndianJesus, you just stole out of my safe, you stole my money. You're like, okay, forgive me. I'd be like, well, are you really sorry? No. Then no, I'm not forgiving you, right? Like, I don't just forgive you without you seeking forgiveness, right? So I think that, but nonetheless, you see the point. So in a perfect society, I would say, yeah, a perfect society, everyone would be a pious Christian. It will be impossible to get there. I understand that, but that would be a goal to shoot for. So what does that look like without forcing people into Christianity? The values, the works that you would expect from a person that was acting as a pious Christian become values that we promote in society, even if it's through a secular point of view or a Muslim point of view or a Jewish point of view. I think that it makes sense to structure our government based on those Christian values. However, by no means would I force someone into that. I think if we, for example, say, due to our Christian point of view, murder is illegal, and you're like, absolutely, I'm a Muslim, but I think murder should be illegal. No problem. Like, great, you got there in a different path, but we agree. No murder, no theft, right? So
that's where I'm at. It's trying to get people to say, to put that aside and see that there are, secular people, there are atheists, agnostics, whatever, that politically align with you, that it's not a monolith, and for all intents, it's not even an ideology. It's just a philosophical position. Real quick though, I want to give a shout out to Guamtech, who was on your channel and gave me a big shout out. So thank you,
Thanks,
sir.
Quantum.
He said, "You forgive the people that repent. Wholesale forgiveness creates monsters."
Correct.
Yep.
And
Exactly.
it's like, you can see that it's inherent in humans. If there aren't consequences. Now, from a secular point of view, again, let's assume for a second God's not real, right? Could you still create a society through a punishment reward structure that would keep people in check? Hypothetically, yes, right? So, for example, you see it's a narrative. I have a 4-year-old, right? Like, if I just leave my 4-year-old pick what to eat every day, he's going to eat chocolate-covered pretzels every day for every meal. And that's obviously, as an adult, you can see the poor outcome that will lead to. If there's no consequences, if he takes another little kid's toy and there's no consequence, he's going to keep taking that toy, right? Mm-hmm. So, obviously, we grow up.
So, but in that situation, you are then becoming the objective standard. And if we are, we're just talking about, we want our kids to be productive members of society, then you are the objective standard in your household of what is right and what is wrong. And so I get what you're seeing when you zoom out and you're talking about an entire society. My trouble is just that when have we ever really tried to do that? Now, people will talk about, well, we never had real socialism. But have we ever really tried to build a secular morality as a society?
Well, yeah. I mean, you don't think the Soviets, the Bolsheviks were that? I mean, their claim, right? They couched their claim in morality, right? And their claim was, like, for example, look at the Holodomor, right? Where they look at the kulaks and they say, why do you deserve the land? That's bullshit.
So let me change that question then. So that's absolutely right. But I mean, we all agree, atheist or otherwise, that the gulags are bad.
Right.
So I guess that is the answer to my question, but that's so far into the other things besides the fact that it was atheistic, that don't align with our American values, that I don't see why we would expect that America, the Christian nation, would turn into Soviet Russia just because the Republican president is like, I don't care who you believe in, as long as you care about America, as long as you care about meritocracy and family and grace and culture and all that stuff, then you're with us. I think that is what will create the numbers, the force necessary for the people who are not quote unquote on our team morally. They will be in the minority. They will be the ones getting the consequences because we will be the ones that have the power.
Okay, so there's a lot to say here. First, let me say this. The idea of structured, that I'm the authority in my house. Well, right. Again, bad Christian, ill-read Christian, but isn't the idea sort of, right, that like I as the father and the husband is the leader in my house, and then my priest, my pastor, my holy man is the leader in my church, and then he gets his guidance from God, right? And so there's a structure, right, where it's like there is the top person, there is God, the Father, Son, Holy Spirit, where all of the instruction comes from. That's interpreted through people that are virtuous and are true Christian believers that are holy men, that then push that down through the teachers, that push that down through to the fathers, the husbands, that push it down through to the father. But that's all, that structure falls apart if I myself have to make up the morality myself. Because then
that's not what I'm proposing, though.
I know, but so that's one. Second, I think that the way I think you're getting to a point that's truth. I don't know that you're using the best example, saying that you can't envision like the United States becoming the Bolsheviks. Oh, I could easily envision that. In fact, I think we're maybe closer there than you would realize. However, let me steelman the argument for you. Absolutely, just because a secular society has failed when attempted before does not mean that other people attempting this society in different ways couldn't achieve success. Furthermore, we could point to societies that have oriented themselves and claimed to be Christian societies, and they too have failed, right? In fact, you could say in the United States, in some degrees, we set ourselves up as a Christian society, and some smartass like me could say, but the problem is that we've gone away from that Christianity. Sure, then what were the guide rails that Christianity put on in the creation of a society that made sure that it didn't turn from it, thereby leading to the ills that we see? So I get it. I think that you're making a point that's accurate. The problem I would have with it is, though, that I haven't been able to envision what that would look like. Because like, even from your stance, like, even if it would interrogate just what little I know of your moral framework that you've given, it sounds very utilitarian, which is fine. I'm not saying there's anything inherently wrong with that.
Well, let me just yes, I consider myself a utilitarian, but I put individual liberty above the utility. So that's a simple way to.
Okay, so then, but then we're gonna see clashes in those two. I say this all the time because part of me, I've always considered myself libertarian adjacent. I too value individual freedom and liberty. But you can see how that would quickly run afoul from wanting a country oriented based on a Christian nationalist society. There's going to be unique individual questions that we have, and we say, for example, drug use. Now, I value individual freedom. So if you want to make the poor decision to shoot up heroin, maybe you should be allowed. But a Christian nationalist might look at second-order consequences and say, yes, but we could easily see that if we allow that to occur, that's going to lead to degradations of these individuals and parts of society, which will have foreseeable consequences that will affect the rest of us in society. And we'll have to pay for the ills of that, whether through the healthcare that'll happen, the theft, the crime, homeless. Look what happened in San Francisco. Now we just got zombies walking around the street. So how do you...
when Xi Jinping's around.
Right. How do you evaluate that? So if you evaluate a utilitarian framework but prioritizing individual freedom, what do you say about like serious drug use?
So I think that with that specifically, it's almost similar to like a free market idea, that if we are pushing a culture where, hey, you don't want to be doing this, you want to, be living a good life, making money, building a family, being a part of your community, all of these types of things are inherent values of being American as opposed to Christian, or not even opposed to, in addition to. Because I'm not trying to take Christianity away from anybody. I'm just trying to be part of the club. And then it just, like, there's always going to be dregs of society, whatever that society looks like. But I think the hopelessness and the political, not philosophical, the political nihilism that we see is because, as Vivek Ramaswamy said, there's a God-sized hole in your heart, then something is going to fill it. And I completely agree that it's good. You're going to trade one dogma for another. Now, I have an issue with dogma on the whole, but
right. I get that. But again, the if I'm hearing you correctly, like, so I didn't hear quite would you allow the legalization of those or not?
Yeah.
Like you would allow.
Yeah. So that would be legal. And then, because of the fact that people are not good with that, because we are the Christian nation, and now we're bringing in more secular people who also have those values, then we'll be able to create the laws that we want to help prevent that. And we're not throwing them in jail, but you can't get I don't know the specifics. That's the conversation I want to.
Well, right. So I get it, but the general principle is what's interesting here, because it doesn't matter if we would say, well, because we're bringing in more people like we want, we would vote in ways. If you're saying that your preference would be to vote in ways to create the law that would not make that a criminal offense, because then there's going to be negatives that come with that from a utilitarian framework. Definitely. You're going to have streets like San Francisco. That's what's going to happen. And it's like, okay, so at what point does the utilitarianism win out? At what point do you say, look, we've let this go on long enough? You have shown us through your personal choices that you have diminished the rest of society. Not in a direct way, because I think you would agree with that. Like the old coercion argument, the right to swing your fist stops where my nose begins. You're not suggesting that. Like, no, I have the right to swing my fist. It's like, sure, you do, but you don't have the right to hit someone else, right? But what if you swinging your fist will predictably lead to the consequence that we can see a week from now, that's going to cause an innocent person to be hurt? Do we have the right to stop you at that moment? That's sort of what the question of drug legalization. Now, I bring it up, the specific on this topic doesn't really matter. The point is, though, that it's clear that if look at it this way, like, it'd be nice if we had someone that we both agreed was way more morally righteous than us and way more smart than us, that we could say, let's appeal to you. What do you think? That's God. That's the idea of God, where it's like, these are difficult questions. We don't know how to orient ourselves when it comes to these specifics. And you're like, yeah, but sure, this is one specific. Yeah, except there's going to be millions upon millions upon millions of them. And what happens is, in those gaps eventually widen, right? Where it's like, well, the people get in there and there's not consequences. So they're like, well, we're just going to keep widening and widening and widening. And now something that could start off as a virtuous thing. Well, we want to prioritize your freedom. For example, we prioritize a woman's freedom to choose their body. I'm one of the people that say, I actually understand the argument. I too find bodily autonomy very important, right? But I also find someone's right to live to be very important.
It's a baby.
So
Yeah.
if I think that it's a baby, although I absolutely agree that a person has the right to say, no, wait a minute, I don't want the government telling me what I can and can't do with my body. Totally agree. But you shouldn't be allowed to kill a living being. So then the discussion becomes, when do we consider this a living human, right? And it's a debate we need not get into. The point is, though, like, they're coming to it hypothetically from a moral virtue. The moral virtue is we want people to have the right to control their own bodies. It's a difficult question. And people have this sense of morality if it's sort of ambiguous. Yours might be the specific one you have. Another person might say, I'm a pure deontologist. I think that the utilitarian calculus doesn't matter. You know, I'm Rorschach. If you've ever read The Watchmen, it's like, no, there is no individual immoral thing that you yourself are allowed to do, no matter what the utilitarian greatness would be. You literally, if I could tell you, hey, if you steal that lollipop from the store right now, you'll prevent World War III. A true deontologist would say no. Stealing is theft, or stealing is wrong, no matter what. No matter that you could see that the predictable second order consequence would be a greater good. You don't get to do that. And so we orient ourselves amongst having to have some sort of objective framework that we could point to have the best cohesive society. I argue that Christianity is probably the best for that because I think Christianity is the truth. But even if it wasn't, at least it's a stable, coherent framework that we could point to. And we could say, this is the objective, and so we're all pushing in the same direction. As opposed to, we could be what we would both consider intelligent, moral people, but their systems, the gaps they have in what they think is moral, is dragging us in different directions. That causes a less cohesive society, and I think that's where we see a lot of the tension.
I don't disagree. But so would you say then, like, I could think of some other people who would be not necessarily like want somebody canceled, but not super happy that there is an atheist out there talking about right-wing politics and giving the secular opinion. But it doesn't sound like that's your position at all. I don't know how well we'll say the secular community understands that. I think there's a lot more people like you on the Christian right than somebody who's like, oh, atheist, nope. But I don't, that's not the impression. And I think, again, going back to specifically the political gains, and I mean, this was much more relevant like 3 years ago, but still very relevant. I think there's such a crisis of like, what do where are we going next? Well, we need to bring, because this left-right paradigm has been shattered. And so, you know, there's a lot of MAGA that's not super right wing. There's a lot of MAGA that's atheist. There's a lot of people, you know, going third party more than ever before. And so I'm just in the position that I think all of these issues are a perhaps a necessary part of human progress to, you know, go through those tough times to make stronger men who have stronger spirituality.
It's interesting, right? Like, so again, I go back to sort of the argument I had earlier where it's like, I'm not the person you're talking about that's Christian. I in fact get criticized by some of the people that are more staunchly like Christian nationalists that are like, what are you doing? Like, you're bringing people into the group that are diluting the group to the point. And I sympathize with that viewpoint. I really do. The abortion example is the best example I could give. It is so hard for me. And I do this. I do Republican events with the state, with the Republican Party in Pennsylvania. And I've talked to people. And it must sound outrageous for me to come in and say, listen, you guys got to stop talking about like life at conception, ban all abortion. You're going to lose elections. And it has to come across as monstrous to a person that's like, oh, so let them murder the babies. That's your argument. I totally understand that. I'm not addressing it from a moral framework. I'm addressing it from, I was brought here to speak on strategy to win politically, right? That's it. And I'm saying if you're like, my moral feelings on this are such that I cannot compromise, I totally understand, and I won't ask you to compromise, and I'll try to proceed forward on how best to make practical real world wins, taking that into account. But if you're asking me what's the best strategy to maximize sort of where we stand right now culturally, less abortions, less things that you consider degenerate, here's the path forward, in my opinion. That's just my opinion. So I just want to be clear that I'm not the person that you're sort of speaking to, and I'm more on your side on the idea of, we need to accept that if people agree with the vast majority of the things we think are important, even if they have disagreements on other things, no matter if we find them important or not, or if they got there in ways differently than what we wanted, that we still accept those people because the alternative at this point is so grotesque that I think we need to come together to fight against this. And it also has to be torturous for someone like you that presumably looks at the left and is like, no, this does not represent me. This doesn't represent me. And then you go to the right and they're like, but you're not pious enough for us. Mm-hmm. No, we're not. We don't want you. Right? And you're like, well, I'm closer to you. We don't want you. We don't want you. And you're like, okay, but the left's nuts. I don't want to be there, and you don't want me. So where's that leave me? I understand that. I guess, though, I would say that we could get to prescriptions on maybe how we could address that, but I think that I would say I understand another way that the perspective's coming, why you're seeing more and more vocal voices that are more staunch, like more Orthodox Christians and people that are more Christian nationalism. And that's because they see the religion itself being diluted. Right? When they look at, say, we think, for example, that the Bible is very clear that homosexuality is a sin, and all of a sudden they see it being embraced by Protestant groups, right? They're like, you see, now the time is ripe. They see this and they're like, now the church itself's being infiltrated and becoming degenerate. Mm-hmm. And so the voices that are coming up are very staunch. They're not going to be middle of the road. They're going to be like, no, it is cut and dry. Here is what we should be. And because of that, someone like you, that's not necessarily like, dude, I'm not here to pervert your religion. I'm not doing that at all, right? But still, their default's going to be like, we've put up the shield because we see how people have came in with honeyed words and said, no, we don't agree on everything, but I'm on your side. And quickly it's become, well, now we're taking over what your religion means. Andrew debated a guy named John Fogelsong today. He was an actor. He used to do America's Funniest Home
Jared Fogle?
Not Jared Fogle. My goodness, that'd be an epic debate. Straight from like where the hell's he at? Yeah, straight from Rikers, Jared Fogle.
Candace got Weinstein on the phone from jail.
That's true. But no, this guy, he was like an actor on CSI and America's Funniest Home Videos, and his whole shtick's like, well, actually, the people that call themselves Christians aren't really Christians. Jesus was pro-gay marriage. Jesus was fine with abortion. So when you see that shit, you're like, nah, screw that. And then some guy like you comes along and you're like, yeah, I'm with you guys on a lot of actual on-the-ground cultural and political issues, but I'm not with you on everything with the Christianity. And they're going to be like, no, get away from us. Because we see dudes like this, and you're going to be one of those dudes. You're going to come in, and then all of a sudden you're going to say, well, you guys need to change this, and you need to change that, and we'd sooner not deal with it.
And I don't even necessarily blame people for having that archetype. Like, I get it. I mean, most atheists, I'll say, are just pieces of shit people. I get that. But there's so many. It's a very big group. I mean, before, let's just say before Trump, then I think it was something like the last 30 or 40 years, there was a constant decline of religiosity. And, that was with the new atheists, they were talking about where the nuns, meaning on the census question, what religion do you follow? Christianity, or none. And that is, or was, I haven't checked it since all of this, but for a long time, for decades, it was on a constant decline. And I think, there is that uptick we get. I mean, I definitely think that between Andrew's work, the what's been going on just in general, Charlie Kirk, all these things, I think are legitimate reasons why people are looking back to Christianity. But my worry is that people look back to Christianity and it's good enough, but it still leaves us in this place where people are feeling left out, exactly like you were saying, but they don't have the fortitude to be like, well, no, you are wrong about me. And they're just going, well, I'm going to go to the people who are nice to me.
Mm-hmm. No, I agree with you. And by the way, I understand that point of view as well. There is something one of the reasons that I'm not saying extremism in the sense of Christian nationalism, that's not what I mean by extremism, but one of the reasons that you see extremist groups that are so appealing is oftentimes what you'll see is people that are ostracized by pretty much every other group. And there's some extremist group that's like, we'll take you in. Mm-hmm. And by the way, I remember one time Richard Spencer was asked, in like 2015, why are you seeing so much more people like adapt like a white nationalist perspective? And he was like, easy, Black Lives Matter. That's it. When they start playing the identity politics group, eventually white people are going to be like, well, wait a minute, we need to collectivize. There you go. Right. And so it's like, I even was on a debate panel once where a lefty was saying like, people were like, oh my God, did you see Rittenhouse? He sang the Proud Boys national anthem. I don't even know what that is, but let's say it was true.
Well, Dusty will know.
Well, that's old Dusty. But the reason, like, let's assume that's true. Hell, let's assume that Rittenhouse would have became a full-fledged white nationalist. Could you have blamed him? When you had half of the country that was like, throw this guy in prison for the rest of his life. Mm-hmm. He's an evil monster. And then there's this group over there. It's like, hey, man, we think you're cool. What do you expect that guy to do? Now, you might say, but I would be stronger. I would say, no, I am confident enough in who I am as a person that I don't need to go to some group that, you know what I mean? But how many people wouldn't be? So I understand what you're saying. A lot of people will just be like, look, if you're not welcoming, then I'm not going to go out of my way to try to find out, like, well, where's the areas of agreements? I'm not going to stick up for myself. I'm just going to go, okay, I'm not welcome here. Fine. I'll find another group to be part of. And I do think that in my opinion, it's a strategic mistake. I would say
I think that's what Gromchek's saying here, that a lot of it is the backlash from a few decades ago.
Yes. And I think it is a strategic mistake, even amongst the Christian nationalists. And I'll explain why. Because if you drive that middle ground away and you start to lose the political gains and cultural gains that you have, on one hand, you can declare a moral victory and say, well, my ultimate judgment will be with God, which is true, but that would be true anyways. You don't have to sell out your principles in order to understand that sometimes you have to leave people that you don't agree with into your group. Like, for example, I have no problem from the sake of Christianity saying I think that homosexuality is a sin, but why would I be unwilling if some homosexual wants to speak at the convention and say, here's my strategic plan on tax policy that will help us win? Why do I give a shit? I don't care. That's more than reasonable. If that person starts to speak up and say, wow, now as a Republican, let me tell you what you must think on homosexuality or on abortion, then I would say, no, I'm not going to listen to you on that. I just don't care. So I think that it is a mistake. And I wish that if I had my druthers, it would be more of sort of embracing people that don't agree with you totally, because in my opinion, the modern day left is so monstrous that it's worth working with. Yeah. I used to say this because, I got the Christian nationalist crew, but then I got like the ANCAP, the right-wing ANCAPs, yep. Right? And my analogy is always this, like we're way over here. I guess we'll do that. We're way over here. We got to go in this direction, all of us. Now, we're going to get to a point where we're going to get so far, and then we're going to go, whoop, and we're all going to fracture. Yes. But we ain't there. We ain't there. So
I'll push back on that. I think that that is starting to happen with the woke right. I don't know your opinions on the term, the woke right. But
is James Lindsay waiting in the background here?
Yeah, he might be, but he's the woke one, so we'll see. But right. No, I'm with essentially the Dave Smith definition of this, where it's like all the same things we hated about the woke left. People on the right who are using those tactics or having that mentality of obsessing over identity politics, trying to shut down conversations by calling people bigots just because of this, that, or whatever, and stuff like that. It's like you all of the stuff that we're making fun of them for, you're now doing the same thing for just different opinions. And it's like the non-woke right didn't really realize, because we had a common enemy of the woke left, and we were all in the same boat. And that boat got shot down. And it's still, it's still Titanicing out there, but it's going down. And now we're looking at our own boat. Like, so wait, you hate the Jews, right? Like, no, me? What? No. And so I think you're absolutely right, but I think that's already started.
Well, I sort of agree but disagree, and I'll explain why. First off, I don't particularly care for the term woke right. I could talk about the nuances and why I think there's differences, but more to the point would be because I think it's a strategic blunder, right? Because it allows the word to be diluted when it comes to the impact of why it's so nefarious on the left. But nonetheless, that only matters because of the latter part of what I'm saying here, which is as follows. I think that the problem with that idea that it's like, okay, we've already gotten to the point, is the false assumption that the left that we saw as a threat has been beaten. And it has not. And I hear like Brett Weinstein saying this. He'll say like, the Democrats don't realize it's all already over. Oh, no, it's not. No, it's not. It's not going to be simple. In fact, I would believe, I know this is cliche to say, but the politics is downstream of culture.
Yep.
While Republicans or conservatives or whatever group you want to say was focused on winning elections, the left was doing things like taking over academia. And they were like, and what was his name? Yuri Bezmenov said this. He was like, if you can indoctrinate 2 generations of people through academia, you've taken over a country, right? And I think that's where we're at. The left is radically taking over K through 12 education and higher ed. And so it's going to take us generations. If we're making the right moves to rescind that, it's going to take generations. So the idea that it's like, hey, we won an election, there we go, the left's been defeated, and now we could all go our separate ways, I think is absurd.
Absolutely.
Now, that from the perspective of James Lindsay, I would be like, well, fuck you for this whole woke right stuff. However, it could also be turned on the people that Lindsay would be criticizing. And it's like, look, man, just because, Christian national, hey, we got Roe v. Wade overturned. So now we no longer need someone like TheIndianJesus that we would have wanted to vote for us and have an opinion in order to push back in. We don't need you anymore. We won. No, man. No, we didn't win.
100%.
We won a small-term battle in a huge war that we've been taking fat L after fat L for generations. And so way too early to declare victory, which is why I'm looking ahead and I'm like, I don't want to lose people like you. I'm going to go out of my way to be like, hey, man, I'd happily talk about our disagreements and getting us on the same page, and I think you should be a Christian. However, the most important thing that we could do right now is say, where are the commonalities that we could move forward for significant cultural and political victories? That's my focus as someone who's operating from a political calculus. And I think that's what separates me and the way I debate from a lot of the people like Andrew. I think Andrew's a great guy. I think he obviously knows more about religion than me. I think he's probably right on the differences I would have with him on religion because I'm ill-studied on that, and he's been taking it seriously for a long time. But if you notice when Andrew debates, he's usually approaching things more from a philosophical position. And I'm usually approaching things from more of a practical position. Right. Like, should we have tariffs? That's a debate you might hear from me. A debate you might hear from Andrew is, where does secular humanist morality come from? That's the difference. I'm not doing a lot of those debates. It's not that I'm incapable. I can articulate thoughts and make arguments just like anyone else. It's just my area of focus is like, I see that despite where people get their morality from, my interest is wherever you get it, dude, let's move in this direction. Let's go here together and get away from this left. Now, once we have soundly defeated what I see as this like terrible leftism that's infiltrated so many institutions in our country, then I'll happily argue with you about why I think your moral framework's bankrupt. But that's a precursor that we have to get away from the people. There are people right now that want to subvert my religion. You don't want to do that. So why wouldn't I work with you to stop those people that actually are a threat to my religion? That's how I would look at it.
And I think that that's definitely fair. I just, again, I think, and I think we're not too far apart on this, clearly. I would just push back again and say that I think, the notion that even within, you're talking about how within Christianity, that can improve. And I agree with that. I don't even understand why we would think that if we're pious Christians, we have the Old Testament, Jesus came down and was like, okay, we're going to change things up a little bit. Then, crucified, and he's supposed to be coming back. So why would we think that when he comes back, he's not going to do the same thing and be like, oh, that we don't need, and now we're going to do this. And so that's kind of my caveated way of saying the position I'm in is making the stand that I'm not convinced. I'm not even saying that it is not the case, but I'm not convinced that spiritually we are at the best place we can be. And I think when we get there, then politically, as you were saying, culture is downstream. So it will, or the other way around. You know what I mean?
Sure.
I think that really is the I don't want to say, magic key, but I think that is what's missing, is bringing in all of these people that, again, share these types of values, but because of the attack, they're just, kind of out there.
Well, I don't disagree. I don't disagree with the broad framework of what you're suggesting, but on the specifics, like, again, not a biblical scholar, but let me say this, like, you're right. Jesus came and he rewrote the covenant, right? Like, so now the rules have changed, for lack of a better term. But I don't think if you existed as a Jewish person 5 years before Jesus, like, sort of comes back, or before Jesus, like, starts preaching his message, I don't think if you preached the message of Jesus that it would have been considered biblically sound, right? The reason that Jesus was able to change the covenant was because he was the Son of God, at least canonically in the religion. So me making that claim, I get in a time machine, right? And I head back to like a year before the birth of Christ. And I'm like, trust me, dude, trust me. We're not going to have to like do all this stuff, that we see in the Jewish religion. Trust me, it's all going to change. We're going to have to believe in this guy that's going to be born in a year and blah, blah, blah. They'd be like heretic. And even in the eyes of God, I think God would obviously forgive me, because he'd be like, well, I did give you, I foresaw that you would have a time machine, so you were still operating under the knowledge of Christ. But that's getting a little weird now. But I think so. So to say now, like, well, you know what? I think that if Jesus came back, he would change some things around, so I don't have to follow the exact teachings of Christ now. I think that's a mistake. Even if you would be right, even if we could say hypothetically, he might come and say, whoa, you that are operating in my name, actually, I don't think you've interpreted this correctly. Let me explain. That's probably likely to be the case.
That's more what I'm feeling.
But even then, right, it's like, well, I don't know what I'm supposed to do with that knowledge then. It's like, well, then say, well, I don't have to have a good faith attempt to read the words of God, to read the Bible and try to operate through the lessons of it.
You still do all of that. You just don't close out other things. You don't close out other ideologies, other moral structures. And again, I think you and you specifically are not rejecting these things. But I personally just was surprised that you're this much in agreement just by the fact that you're part of the Crucible. And
well, let me be clear though. So two things to say about this. Even before I was part of the Crucible, I don't think Andrew would mind me saying this. I remember Andrew 3 years ago, like talking to me on the phone and was like, hey, how's it going? We're just talking about where our channels were going. And he was like, I would like to build a coalition of people that are pushing. He always calls me a libertarian. That's how he looks at me, like I'm some libertarian, right? And he's like, I would like to build a coalition of people that's just capable of fighting the left. That's it. And I understand we're going to have differences, but that's what I want. That's what I'm pushing for. Now, maybe he's become a little more like Christian nationalist now than he was then, and maybe that's affected. I don't know. Maybe you just had one interaction in the context of this debate that.
I don't follow him that closely, but I'm pretty. We cover him for my regular show all the time. And again, I like his the way he does things. It's just it feels like there is a blind spot. And, obviously within the 5 minutes that I got at the modern day debate thing, we couldn't get into those things. But I really think that, not even saying that like, Andrew, check this out. I'm going to change your whole worldview. You're not being a Christian anymore. But again, that is not my goal. It would be more along the lines of it would be better for you. If that's what you want, the right to defeat the left, it would be better for you and your audience to be able to bring in people like myself and, focus on the actual aspects of people, philosophically, practically, politically, whatever else, that are actually the issue, instead of this broad category that doesn't actually contain any ideology. I think it's shooting themselves in the foot.
Just to answer someone in my chat, yes, of course, the Pharisees would kill me if I came back before the birth of Christ and told them. But I'm not saying that. I'm saying in the eyes of God himself. Of course, the church at the time would say, nah, that ain't going to work for us, dog. I get that. The other thing I think it's worth saying here is like my employment at the Crucible has nothing to do with my personal beliefs insofar as like I can say whatever I want in my channel, and it's under the assumption that I don't have the exact same religion as him. Now, would he hire someone in any position that wasn't a Christian? I don't know. Maybe. Would he hire someone that's actively subverting Christianity? I think the answer would be no. So, for example, if I came out and was like, and by the way, I'm trans. he would probably be like, no, sorry, dude, you're not going to work for me anymore. Right. Like, but it has never been part of me working with him that was like, look, you need to convert, or you need to, but these are the religious precepts that I minimal need you to believe. None of that's ever came up. But I guess just to sort of like my final thoughts on like this portion of it is like, I do agree with you that there is a practical case to make, and I think that I'm sort of an embodiment of that I'm trying to exist in these two worlds. Like, I can exist with the log cabin Republicans, gay Republicans, say, sure, man, I'll listen to you guys. I welcome you into this coalition to say, when it comes to these issues, here's our agreement, and we should push forward together on those, right? But the issues I disagree with you, I'm going to say, no, man, I can't agree with you on that. And for me, I am looking at it and I'm thinking, on this earth, I have no guarantee of victory. I think that a mistake that people look at is we think of our life as fiction, right? One of the best things that ever happened to me was I was really trying hard to qualify for this tournament, the National Debate Tournament, which is basically the NCAA basketball tournament of debates. Like the top 70.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah, it's top 72 teams, but each school could send up to 3 teams. So you're looking at maybe 40 schools. And there's no division. So we're debating Harvard. My goal was the guy on my team before me that was the best, his goal was to make it, and he came within 1 round of qualifying. And he lost that round. And he was devastated. So my goal was always for 4 years, I'm going to make it. My third year, we're 1 round away from qualifying. And me and my partner did everything right. Well, seemingly. Like, we busted our ass. We're the underdog story. We're doing really good. Win this last round, and we lose. And I remember we were around D.C. It was at Mary Washington University. And we're driving back. It's like 15-hour drive back, and everybody's all sullen. You come so close and you lose. And it's one of the best things that ever happened to me in my life. Because what I realized is like, oh, yeah, life's not a movie. It's not a comic book. I'm not the main character. Sometimes you do things that you think are right, and you lose, and you fail. And you know what? That's okay, right? So what I always try to remind people of, like, life's not like that. We're not guaranteed to win. At the end of the day, we'll beat these evil globalists. We'll beat these evil institutionalists, blah, blah, blah. The deep state shall lose. Maybe not.
Fingers crossed.
Maybe it won't. Maybe, if you're Christian and you truly believe, well, the end of the book. You know what happens to you. You end up in the kingdom of heaven anyways. But that does not mean you're guaranteed to win on this world. I think it's our duty to make this world as best as possible, right? And so I'm not willing to give up and just saying, well, I know with the ending, so I'll give up. No, that's not the point. Mm-hmm. But what that means is that I'm understanding it's not that we get some default win at the end. So screw it. We don't need allies. We'll win in the end. Faith tells me we'll win. Faith does not tell you that. Faith tells you you'll win in the end, right? As in getting into the kingdom of heaven. But it does not tell you you'll win on this world. And so if I want to make this world as good a place as possible, I have to be practical. I have to be willing to work with people that I don't agree with everything on. Now, there's obviously a threshold limit, and I can't tell you exactly where that threshold is, right? If we agree 85%, can I work with you? Okay, maybe I say, yeah, but what about 80? No. Well, why 80 and not 85? You see what I mean? I don't know the exact threshold.
Sure.
So for me, the best I could do is say, here are the issues that I find to be the most important. And the people that are willing to work with me on those, here are the secondary issues that I also find important, but maybe we disagree on those. So maybe I could work with a socialist that says we need to bring down the corrupt FBI. Right? Now, I despise socialism, but I would say, okay, to me...
Not as much as the FBI.
That's right. That's what I would say. Let's bring down the FBI, and then I'll argue with you about socialism. That would be my argument.
I completely agree with that. Dilly to all of what you just said.
Thanks. I did.
That's the main thing here. It's just, trying to get us better at talking to people that we disagree with. And so, switching gears a little bit, I wanted to ask you how you feel about, because since you're very well read on, like, you do this. I still, I got a smaller channel, still got my job, and I could be doing more reading. But, my perspective is that the culture war stuff is an on-ramp for people who otherwise are not paying attention and then will fall into the default left. And so a lot of people will give me shit about, the lowbrow one is, there's a genocide going on. But there's other things. There's more important. This is just culture war bullshit. What do you think about that? Just that position, and with the context that I think if I am an on-ramp, then everybody else will be more well understood. Like if somebody watches me, they'll understand you better than if they just didn't watch me at all.
Well, yeah, I mean, here's the thing, right? I always look at it through this perspective. There's people, if I'm having a conversation with someone, me and you decide, we're going to have a debate on tariffs. I'm pro-tariff, you're anti. It doesn't matter if those are true positions or not. So we set up a debate and we have a moderator, me and you're going to debate. I always look at it like there's default 5 different types of people in the audience. There's the people that are going to be predetermined to agree with me almost no matter what, and those that'll be predetermined to agree with you. Probably neither of us are going to change any of those minds, right? I'd have to be real shitty to get those people that already are predetermined to agree with me to not like me. Same with you, or you'd have to be, you get the point. Then the next group of people are people that are already leaning towards you or leaning towards me. And then there's people directly in the center, which are either literally in the middle, or they're ignorant. And I don't mean ignorant in a negative context. They just don't know the issue. And so they're like, well, I'm open to be persuaded because I've never really thought of this, right? Those middle 3 groups can be reached, right? So who are those?
Wait, so 5 was automatically on me, automatically on my side, automatically on your side. And then the people who
lean towards you, lean towards me.
Oh, gotcha.
And they are either completely ambivalent, right in the center, or ignorant of the situation. And those 3 groups could be persuaded. Now, what am I saying here? Well, let's take it this way. I think there are hardcore people that are dug in that are pretty much, without radical change, always going to be on the left, and they're always going to be on the right. You might say it this way. There are the Breitbart viewers, and there are the MSNBC viewers. They ain't changing their mind, probably, right? It's not, I don't see a Breitbart, reader every day that's all of a sudden going to be like, you know what, Kamala makes some good points here. And the same, like, no Rachel Maddow viewer is going to be like, wow, Trump's really brought me along. It could happen. I'm not saying, obviously nothing's 100% chance, but it's very rare. That's going to be very rare. So, okay, that's baked in. These people that are heavily invested in a political side already, that's one thing. But that's not the majority of the people that are going to decide the cultural or political landscape. The majority of those people are going to be people that are willing to look at the other side. They lean one way or the other. Or I think there is a huge amount of people that just don't give a shit. And those are the people I deal with every day. Like, for example, my neighbor, right? This dude's a farmer. He's getting up at 5 a.m. He's going out in the fields. He's working. He comes back. You know what he likes to do for fun? Hang out with his family, watch some football on Sundays, right? A couple times a year, his friends come into town. He goes hunting. That's it, man. So when I'm sitting with this dude, like watching the game with him, and I'm like, oh, man, did you see this shit? Did you see this Burisma scandal? Did you see this shit? This dude's like, what the fuck are you talking about? Yeah. What? Right? And it doesn't matter. What do you think of the new tariff policy? Huh? What? What, is the price of gas going to go up? Yeah, it fucking sucks. Anyways, back to the game. That's the way these people are. Yep. You can't get super...
And that's not a bad thing.
In fact, I would say the opposite. Those people have more meaningful lives than me because they're focused on the real shit that matters. Their family.
You at least have a family. I got Morty, and he's 15.
So those, like, I don't denigrate that at all. I envy it, and I think that it's something that's admirable, right? Politics to them, they don't care. They just want to be left alone, and they want to, they've prioritized their things. So complicated, like these complicated political, what do you think about the filibuster? Should we end the filibuster? What do you think about this case that went in front of the court? 99% of that's not going to resonate, right? But the culture war stuff does. That they get. Your daughter that plays high school volleyball, yeah, there's a dude on the other team. Right. What the fuck? What? Yeah, man, they're saying there's no difference. Huh?
Right? That's what's going to get them to turn away from the game. And so now you're in the game.
When people say things like, well, I don't know why you're focused on the culture war, because it matters. Because that's the on-ramp. That's where you get people. And Scott Jennings said this the other day. He makes, I don't know if you know who he is. He's sort of the one conservative on CNN, sort of.
Said, shout out to Scott Jennings.
He's great.
He doesn't work.
And he makes this point. He says, if you see someone that says there's no biological difference between men and women, and they want biological men in their daughter's locker room, they're not going to trust you on economic matters. Exactly. They don't give a fuck. It doesn't matter that you're like, well, forget about all that. Okay, you're not with me in the culture war, the man in your daughter's locker room, but let me explain to you why we need to have a progressive tax bracket. They're going to be like, shut the fuck up. I don't want to hear what you have to say. I think you're a weirdo monster, so fuck you. Right?
So it is just random. It is just, random imposter syndrome. And I am legitimate in talking about culture war issues.
Absolutely. I think that that's more important. I actually do. Because to me, and you think about the issue. Now, there are politics that bleeds into that. So, for example, this is why Trump's fucked up so bad in the Epstein thing. I actually don't think Trump's actions have been all super bad on the Epstein. His words have been, though. Like, when you tell your audience that really is concerned about this issue, if you don't think this is a Democrat hoax, don't support me anymore. Whoa, dude, that's politics 101. You never tell people not to support you, particularly your core base that really cares about this issue. But that's an issue that resonates with people. Here's a story that it's easy to understand. Hey, neighbor guy, it's a farmer. Yeah, what's up? Do you know that there's this island where these powerful world leaders go and they like do all this heinous shit with children? Yeah, man, that's fucked up. Like, that's easy to understand. I got that. That guy, it's not the same as being like, let me tell you this Russiagate scandal. It's like, as soon as you start saying names, well, there's this guy, Igor Dashenko. It's like, and I'm out of here. Fuck you. I don't care. Yeah, I don't care. But the Epstein stuff resonates because it's a simple story to understand. Here's another one politically that resonated, COVID. Right? Like, these people around here that used to give me shit, like, I don't want to hear you talk about politics, shut the fuck up. Now all of a sudden it's like, guess what? They shut down my small business. See?
Now
Maybe you should have cared about
Did you
politics.
get the jabs?
Did I?
Yeah.
No comment is my answer on that.
Fair enough, but I always got to give a big shout out to the pure bloods. Let's go. You stood up to the biggest propaganda campaign that ever happened in your life. Do it.
I will say only this. My work thinks I did. That's what I'll say about that. So that, but nonetheless, that was understood by people. They understood that when it was like, holy shit, none of this makes sense. And then once they start looking into it, it's like, wait a minute, if that didn't make sense, when the people told me that we needed to support the invasion of Afghanistan, did that make sense? When they told me we had to bail out the banks, did that make sense? When they told me that we need to do, and that's the on-ramp. The on-ramp is stories that are easy to understand. And the culture war shit's the easiest. And it's not, and you might say, oh, so is Rob saying be duplicitous? Just make shit up so that you get people on board. No, the culture war stuff's all true. That's the beauty of it. It is true. This is who the left is. I break it down.
Feel a lot better about my life, brother. You are making me feel a lot better about my life.
I think that that's absolutely fair. The way I look at it, the easiest way I break it down is like, I call it cultural Marxism. People speak on it in different ways, but I say that like Marxism was like, we could break people down oppressor versus oppressed with economics, the haves and the have-nots. But what happens if we do that on everything? What if we do it on skin color? And what if we do it on biological sex? And what if we do it on sexual orientation, right? So
what do you mean?
There is a group of oppressors and there is a group of oppressed. You have the proletariats oppressed, the bourgeoisie's the oppressor, right? You have white people are oppressors, people of color are oppressed. Christianity are oppressors, the rest of the people are oppressed. Men are the oppressors, women are the oppressed, right? And you break people down in those categories. And then what we've done is we've incentivized being oppressed because that gives you sort of victimhood credibility, which is like the new social currency. And so you have all of these people that are jockeying for, well, where can I be oppressed? Well, I'm some white dude. What the fuck? Wait a minute. I'm a white dude. I'm straight. Oh, I'm fucked, man. I don't get any oppression points, but I'm fat.
But I'm queer.
I'm fat, you motherfuckers. So I'm oppressed. You know, that's what I'll focus on. Forget that I'm a white man. I'm a big fat guy. Oh, I'm oppressed. And a lot of what happened is people then, the easiest one to change. Well, what's the most oppressed? The trans community. Okay, I'm trans. Wow, I just went from being one of the most oppressing people to one of the most oppressed. And once you explain that to people.
Stunning and brave.
You know, for me, I come from an area that's probably 90% white. Maybe even more. I don't know. And like, these people don't live enviable lives. Like, the fucking standard of living here is real low. In the little county I'm in, it's called Clarion County, right? The biggest job market here was this factory called Owens, Illinois. They made beer bottles, right? It was a glass plant, and a ton of people worked in this town or in this factory, right? My dad worked right across from it in a window factory, right, where they made windows. Less people work there, but he goes into work one Tuesday. They're like, pack up your shit. You're done by Friday. Okay? Owens, Illinois goes out of business, right? Before this, in the 80s, you had a bunch of kilns and shit like that that were around here. They all go out of business. Manufacturing, like, just being hollowed out in this area. And it's like, these people are desperate. Many of them are desperate, you know? And they're not bad people. These are hardworking people. And so what happens when you become economically destitute and desperate? Well, drugs are becoming a problem. And all of a sudden, you're seeing shit here that would have been unthinkable 30, 40 years ago. Drug addicts walking down the street in these little neighborhoods like where my parents live. And they're like, what the fuck is this? How is this possible? When we bought this house 30 years ago, my goodness, like, you left your doors unlocked. Now there's drug addicts. What the fuck's going on? And when you're in this group of people, and then you're like, well, is there at least someone speaking up for me? And you turn on, and every single place you turn says you're the villain. Black Lives Matter says you're the villain. Academia says you're the villain. Fuck it, I'm done with this. I just want to not think about this. Let's turn on late night comedy. You're the villain. Okay, I'll watch a Marvel movie. You're the villain. Fine, I'll turn on athletics. You're the villain. And these people are like, what the fuck is going on? What the fuck is going on? Because it's one thing, and I'm not saying that this is like even, I'm not doing oppression Olympics like, so that means we have it worse than blacks in the inner city. Not saying that, right? But at least those people that probably face worse problems that are like in a shitty inner city neighborhood, at least people pretend to give a shit about their problems. They'll at least pay lip service. Oh, yes. My gosh, that's terrible. These poor people. Not evil white man in rural America. You're a piece of shit. So a lot of my focus is like telling people like these culture war issues matter. It resonates with them. When I know people that fucking make $10 an hour busting their fucking ass working on roofs. Now, most of those, that's because they can't pass a piss test, and that's their own fault. Well, but nonetheless, but they're on a roof busting their ass. You know what they're doing with their money? Every Sunday, they go to the local fucking bar, and they all sit around, and they watch Pittsburgh Steelers football, baby. We watch Steelers football, and they save up their money, and they go to a game every year, and they buy a jersey. So when they turn on a couple years ago, and they watch the fucking Steelers kneel for the flag, for the national anthem, they're like, motherfucker. Right? This is it. This is my enjoyment in life. I got one fucking thing. One thing. And my son is a Marine. And now this shit? Now I got to put up with this shit. Millionaires that are catching a ball, that are having a life that I could never imagine. But I'm okay with that arrangement. I'll continue to throw what little money I have to buy their jersey, to hopefully get their autograph or whatever. And they're lecturing me that I'm the problem. Fuck you. That's why the culture war matters, because that will resonate, and that's what Donald Trump tapped into. There are people that live where I live that would crawl over fucking broken glass to vote for Trump that have never voted in their life before, because this billionaire Manhattanite, and maybe your perspective is he's full of shit, he's a blowhard. I don't think he is, but even if that was the case, the bar is so low because finally there was a guy that at least spoke up for them and said, hey, you guys are the backbone of the country. You're good people. You people are good people. Obama said you cling to your guns and Bibles. Hillary said you're deplorable. But I think you're good people. And that's how low the bar was. That these people were like, fuck, yes. Finally someone said something.
Somebody is saying I'm not a horrible person.
Trump wins. I'll just finish with this. Trump is winning those people, not because of his policies. His policies could be antithetical to him, and it would matter less. You know what matters? The culture war. That's why they're voting for him, because this guy is fighting the culture war for them in their eyes. Now, the left would say they're being lied to. He's not. I disagree with that, but nonetheless, that's what the issue is. They think that this guy's fighting the culture war for them. So 100% agree with you that in order to bring people in that on-ramp, the culture war is the precursor to that.
Yes!
That's my
so I don't want to hear nobody's shit about why you're talking about this, that, or the other. Fuck you, but who we definitely will not say fuck you is the fuck master general with the big 20. Thank you. Said, thanks for being here, Rob. Come back sooner than later.
Sure.
After my exit, sniff jerks later. Well, thank you. And of course, God herself, Marilyn.
Thankfully,
I don't know if you remember the debate on verbal combat. We were covering that as just a way in case anybody didn't know you. Everybody did, by the way, but just in case people didn't know you, we covered some stuff. And she popped in and we had an interesting conversation. I just dropped the video today, so after the stream,
I'll check it out. Yeah, it was a fun one, frustrating but fun. So
interesting indeed. If you want to check the private chat real quick. Thank you guys so very, very much. I'm going to do some math. I think we hit the goal, right? Fuck it, we hit the goal. So don't forget, guys. We'll wait. We won't subject Rob to me doing push-ups, but it is a peanut butter night. So I'm going to give Rob the floor to just say whatever the hell he wants for about 30 seconds while I go grab the frozen peanut butter cup for Morty.
All right. What do I want to say for 30 seconds? Well, I have nothing to say. No, that's not true. I think this has been a great discussion. I think that I saw some people saying on the chats that were being brought up that I seem more reasonable when I'm not arguing against the left. I disagree. I think that the problem is that you have a misnomer because I'm usually arguing with people that are on the left and I'm pushing back against them. That doesn't mean that I don't argue with people on the right. Quite to the contrary. The vast majority of people I deal with in an online space or when I was debating in college were left-wingers and usually hardcore left. But when I'm back home, you have no idea how many times I'm having conversations with people around here that are like, Trump can do no wrong. And I'm like, well, that's not true. Here's a litany of things I have that are problems with Trump. And I do it on my channel a lot as well. The problem is the vast majority of people that see me that aren't regular viewers are like, oh, Rob's debating on modern day debate. Rob's debating on verbal combat. Rob's debating on Prime Cage Show. And those topics are always going to be Rob's the token right-winger that's brought on. Because I'm one of the better people that come from a right-wing perspective. And a lot of people that they would get in those panels are right. I'll give you an infamous, in my eyes, panel I did. Dylan Burns going into the 2020 election. One of the topics on his panel is, who you voting for, Trump or Biden? And we have 4 Democrats and 4 Republicans. And the Democrats say Biden, 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 Biden. And then the Republican says Biden, Biden. I'm not voting. And then me, I'm like, Trump? Right? And so when people see me on there, the default position they have is like, well, look, those other right-wingers are more reasonable. Rob's more partisan. Well, I would look at it the opposite way. I would say, I don't even think those people most of them are real right-wingers. They're people that are seeking sort of the adulation of people on the left. And so when you have someone like me that I think probably is a more accurate view of an average Republican than a lot of these people, as is borne out by the fact that Trump won, I come across as many people say, well, Rob's combative. He's pushing back. Yeah, it's a fucking debate. And I'm saying what I honestly think. Now, if those same people that I'm debating there are like, hey, Rob, we want to talk to you about the need to have nonviolence, I'm going to sound very reasonable because I'm going to agree with them on that. So that's the difference.
Well, I think a lot of people, is this a new one? Oh, KFT. Thank you so very, very much. Again. What is that? Thank you. Adding to the love. And I froze it this time, so he didn't just run right through it. But yeah, we said make Rob do push-ups. If we hit the super chat goal, then every $2, I have to do a push-up because
I haven't heard you hit a disc, but I'm sure I could plow through like 5 to 10, no problem.
Well, we're at what? We're at 64, 66 now. So that is, we round down. So 32. But guys, thank you so very, very much. What was the last thing you said?
Oh, I was just talking about like the idea that I seem more reasonable when I'm talking to someone that agrees than someone that disagrees. Well, yeah, it sort of makes sense, right? If I'm on a debate and I'm debating against someone on a view, by default, if you don't agree with my view, I'm going to seem less reasonable. This is something, believe it or not, the first interaction I ever had with Andrew Wilson was as follows. It had to do with Dylan Burns. Dylan's on debating Andrew about sort of gay marriage and gay representation on television and things like that. Or I don't know the exact topic. It's irrelevant. I'm sitting at home and someone text messaged me that watched my show. And it's like, you know, this guy, Big Papa Fascist. That's what Andrew called himself back then. Right? I'm like, yeah, I've heard of him. And he's like, they're like, yeah, man, this guy's talking mad shit in you right now. Like he's on this politically provoked and he's talking mad shit. So I turn on my computer and he's like, these fucking fake right-wingers like Rob Noerr, he won't even like be honest about trans people and whether or not they're biological men or women. And I was like, oh, motherfucker. So I go on the chat and I'm like, he said he offered to debate me and I ran from him. I was like, fuck all that. I'll debate right now. Now Dylan was getting blown out of the fucking water. So I go on and I'm like, fuck you. When did you ever offer to debate me? And he's like, well, I was on your chat and I asked. And I was like, I didn't see the fucking message on my chat, dude. If you'd have sent me a DM, I would have said, yeah. And he's like, I'll take it all back right now. If you're willing to say that, you know, men can't be women. I was like, men can't be women. He's like, oh, okay. And then I was like, well, do you want to have a debate about something? And we debated about gay marriage. And even Andrew admits he was unprepared. And if you go on Reddit to this day, all of these big left-wingers, like Destiny and all them, their audience fucking hates me and talks shit on me. They're like, holy fuck, Rob Noerr, I can't believe how based he is, arguing for gay marriage. What a cool dude. The reason I bring this story up is this. When you have someone that's an effective debater, it's like anything else, right? I don't know what sports you're a fan of, but I like
I used to be a football fan. I was into UFC for a while, but I'm not really a big sports fan. But,
okay, I love a lot of the big sports that Pittsburgh's had. Hockey was one I liked, right? Now, hockey's notorious for having like these pest-type players that are just fucking agitators. They're always, you know, bending the rules. They're hurting your star, right? One of them was this dude, Scott Hartnell from the Flyers. I fucking hate the Flyers. And fuck Scott Hartnell, right? He's a piece of shit. He's always breaking the rules. He's always trying to hurt our top players. But as soon as the Penguins would hire Scott Hartnell, I'd be like, fuck yeah, man, this guy's the man. He's fucking with the other team's stars. That's what I want. That's what this is like. if you have someone that's an effective debater and they're always arguing against you, you're going to be like, fuck that guy. I hate that guy. But as soon as he's arguing your side, you're going to be like, hey, this guy ain't that bad.
Right.
What a good guy. So it's like, yeah, that's them's the breaks. That's all I'm saying.
And there's two things on that. One is the fact that, like, you speak quickly. I mean, I think you speak faster than I do. But that is often people say, "Oh, he just talks fast, or he's loud, so he thinks that he's." It's like those are not mutually exclusive. I can be loud and fast and right.
Right.
Can you address what I actually said?
Correct. And for me, you want to know why I'm loud? Because I had loud siblings. I think it was just the way we were raised. My parents were loud. I don't mean anything, but people say that all the time. It's like, man, you sound like you're fucking furious. Sometimes I am furious, but most of the time it's like, dude, you should hear me argue about baseball. If you think this sounds furious, it's like, this is just how I talk. I don't mean anything. 99% of the I had someone say to me after my last interaction on Sarah Tomato's channel, where Dusty was interrupting me, and I was like, fuck this, I'm leaving. It doesn't matter. Like the details, but they were like, you let people get under your skin too much. I was like, in what way? Well, you let them get to you. I was like, no, I just don't want to be interrupted. It's not worth my time. But I don't mind that someone be like, you fat fuck, blah, blah. I don't care at all. Now, I might sound like it because I'm like, oh, fuck you, blah, blah, blah. But that's not me, like, super mad. I chuckle about half these jokes. I wouldn't say it on stream, but then I go down, I'm like, that's a pretty good one. They like burned me pretty good there. That shit don't bother me at all. Connor threatened to kick my ass the other day. More power to you, buddy. Yeah. It sounds good. You gonna beat up a fat old man with a herniated disc? Have at her. And as you're beating me, I'm still gonna be like, you're still a fucking morally reprehensible coward, you piece of shit. And then he'll hit me again. I don't give a fuck. Right? That shit doesn't bother me. But yeah, the people that are like, you talk fast, you talk loud, you sound angry, address the argument. That's all I have to say.
Yeah, I'm the same way. And people think, like, oh, because you just get triggered, you just get angry. It's like I'm not angry. I'm just passionately right. And
there's differences. There's differences to things too, right? Like, for example, I'll get accused of gish galloping. Well, what they really mean by that is I'm scattershotting a bunch of points that are unconnected, hoping that my opponent can't answer them, and so therefore I declare some default victory because I throw out 15 points and they were only able to get to 2.
But really, it's just one sentence and they can't keep up.
And usually what it is like, that's untrue. Let me give you 3 examples, right? And so it's all the same argument. And one of the things I try to do, and I'm not perfect on this, I'm certainly long-winded, and it's something I should work on. But I try to, in a debate, reciprocate both the energy and the timing of my opponents. So I like to do a sort of back and forth. Maybe ideal for me would be I talk 30 seconds, you talk 30 seconds, I talk a minute and a half, you talk 2 minutes, I talk 30 seconds, you talk 30. There's sort of a flow, a back and forth, right? Because a lot of the best parts of debates, like, well, hey, TheIndianJesus, let me ask you this, man. Would you say that, in a Buddhist society, you would be okay if they say that murder is righteous in some cases? And you might be like, well, yeah, I guess I would be okay. And be like, okay, well, given that, you see, but your answer is indicative of what I'm going to respond. But here's how it occurs in debate 99% of the time on here. I'd say, oh, TheIndianJesus, would you say that in a Buddhist society, you'd be okay if they said murder's okay at some time? And you'd be like, well, it's an interesting question. Murder being okay. I guess the first thing we'd have to do is really ask ourselves, what do you mean by murder? And when you say Buddhist society, well, little did you know that there's like 7 different types of Buddhist societies. If you go back and then 4 minutes later, I'm like, right, okay. So anyways, given that, like, I think then you would also say that you have to be okay with that in a Christian framework as well. Well, and then you go for another 3 minutes. Now, at this point, I'm sitting here, I'm like, okay, I let you get your points out for like a minute. Then I asked you a 5-second question. You responded for like a minute and a half. Then I asked you another 5-second question. You responded for a minute and a half. I'm going to talk for 3.5 fucking minutes. Fuck you. That's how it's going to be. And then people are like, the difference is, and I'm sorry to do a little humble brag here. The difference is a lot of people, when they're talking at a long chunk of time, they're sort of repetitious. Mm-hmm. They're repeating themselves. They're saying the same thing over and over. Maybe it's because of my training in debate and you have like a time frame that I've learned to actually make different points, right? And so people get pissed off. They'll be like, well, you just made 7 points. Dude, I talked the same amount of time as you. It's not my fault you didn't say anything in 7 fucking minutes. That's not my fault, Do
you get the I'm sure you do, but do you get Rob just always has to be right? Do you get that? Oh my fucking God. I don't always have to be right. I just happen to be right all the fucking time. It's not my fault that you're wrong.
I don't get this argument, right? Or like, you're just employing, like, it sounds like you're winning because you're employing debate strategy. What, you mean like logic? Is that what you mean? Like, I don't understand that. I actually had this come up at work once. I did this job where I was working with adults with autism and shit. And sadly, part of the job is you deal with people that sometimes could get violent. And there was a house where it was real violent, and the owner of the company showed up after an incident, and it was serious enough that someone went to the hospital. And so we're all sitting there discussing what's going on in the house. And I'm pretty pissed off because I feel that we're unprepared for this, that no one really trained us or let us know how violent this could get and how dangerous it could get. So I'm sort of speaking up for the team. I was the supervisor of the house, and I was like, and I'm pushing back against this owner. And she literally says to me, like, well, it sounds like you're right because you did those fucking debate tricks. And I'm just like, what the fuck does that even mean?
What is the
like,
difference between sounding right and being
exactly
right?
That's exactly the point. So it's like the idea that you always have to be right. What's the argument here in debate then? Is the argument that I should intentionally lose?
Real quick, sorry. AOD. So obviously, all right. Anybody from Rob's stream? I just asked that you cam up. That is all I ask. My chat's being a little beta bitches. I don't know where y'all at, but
oh, it's just a bunch of my peeps that are. Don't worry, they're just gonna call in and harass me. There's our man Nate. What's happening?
Nate.
Hey,
welcome.
What's up, Nate? How you doing?
Do I have lag tonight?
A little bit, but we not bad enough.
Nate's a trucker, so oftentimes he'll lag like 20 seconds. You sound pretty good tonight.
All right. So I got a question for you, TheIndianJesus.
Sure.
How is it? I've seen you on a lot of Sarah's panels, and how is it that the vibe I get off you is you're kind of a secular guy. How is it you align so well with so many of us Christian right dudes?
That's a great question, and I appreciate it because it's not that fucking hard to be a good person. And I'm being a little bit flippant, but firstly, I was born, I'm 35 now. So I think, so still most of my life, I was a Christian. These are the values that I was brought up with. It's mostly the truth claims specifically that pulled me away from the faith, and understanding that, the notion of belief, the notion of faith is not necessarily a good thing. I mean, you don't want faith when it comes to crossing the street. But the values, the ethics, sound good to me. Are they perfect?
Okay.
Yeah. But they're definitely better than nothing. They're definitely better than the lefties.
Well, okay, so one word that a lot of people throw around a lot these days is on right and left, and left is starting to use it more, is moral. Do you see a difference between ethics and morals?
That's the type of question I was hoping Rob would ask so that I could know what to look up later. So in general, I would say no. In casual conversation, like the idea that we are being ethical is essentially the same thing as saying we are being moral. But if we break it down philosophically, I think morality is more in line with what you do, versus ethics is more in line with how you think.
I think that could be a fair breakdown. I was curious, Lutch, how did that poll end up? Because we kind of asked that question about.
So yes, we had a poll running for the entire stream up until just now. We're almost at the 2-hour mark. Do we need religion for morals? Take a guess.
50-50.
Guamtech, what's your guess, brother? Nah. 52.
I'm thinking your chat. I think in your chat's gonna say no.
My chat is mostly Christian.
Yeah,
but 52% said no. And I know Box is, speak of the devil. I know Box is an atheist. I know Liberty is an atheist, but I think everybody else in my chat is a Christian.
I think your chat's pretty 50-50. I know. Who do we have that just hopped in? We got Guam up here. We got Rob's back.
Hi, CT. Hi, Guam. I hope you're well. And hi, Rob.
Oh, is that Box? What's up, Box? Yeah, we've got a good mix of people here. Some from Rob's chat, some from your chat, Lutch. We're at least Lutch's chat is pretty 50-50, and we definitely he I don't know if you all are members of Lutch's Discord. We do what we call the after party, where he'll do his streams, and then we'll go into Discord and kind of have an open conversation about
everyone yells at me, the resident lefty. That's what ends up happening. They all just yell at me, and I have to cry myself to sleep every night.
Good. They're doing their job then.
Right. And if one of the mods could drop the link, it's not actually pinned because the StreamYard link is. But if somebody can drop the link, guys, if anybody clicks the link to join the free Discord before the stream is over, you get a day pass to come and hang out in the after party.
Yeah, come hang out. It's a good time.
We definitely have these conversations in depth where you don't have to be cammed up. It's not like when Lutch brings us up on YouTube.
Box.
But you don't have to be. And
well, it's smart when you're streaming live to have people cam most of the time because then there's a little more accountability if someone decides to
go crazy,
run afoul of TOS or something.
We've seen that a few times now.
I do want to say to you, Rob, we've actually I joined one of the debate panels before, so I've been on a panel with you, and it was nice to see you kind of not your debate form, more just kind of a long conversation form. It was
Thank you.
Yeah.
Like, please, I won't be torn apart. That's not what I'm looking for. Mercy.
Well, no, I think that I personally so for me, I stream now. This is something people ask me about streaming. By no means am I a big streamer, but to the extent that I've grown as a channel, people ask advice on streaming, and it's all about what you're trying to accomplish. If you're just streaming because it's a hobby, then the goal looks different in achieving that than if you're doing it for financial reasons. So for me, when I started this, it was a hobby, and what's the thing that what itch was I trying to scratch? I debated in college. I wanted to keep debating. So one of the things that I really wanted to do once I figured out how to live stream was, how do I jump into some debates? So that's still my bread and butter. Not that it's not even if I'm good at it. It's just that's what I like. And I'm blessed that I think I'm okay at it. And I think that people like watching me. But I also enjoy just having conversations with people, not just on stream, but outside of stream. When I ran for Congress, it was a very unique situation. It was a special election.
Wait.
Where'd you run for Congress?
I love policy, man. I'm a policy wonk. So
we gotta hear about that. You can't just gloss over that. You ran for Congress?
Oh yeah. I mentioned this at the top of the show. Yes, I ran for Congress. So I'll give you as quick as rundown as possible. I wanted to run in the district. They redistricted me in Pennsylvania. So imagine I live here. So I'm part of this district, but then they redistricted it, and now I'm part of this district. I never moved. The district I was in was the senior Republican in the state of Pennsylvania. His name's Glenn Thompson. He's still a congressman, right? So around 2015 or 16, I inquired with my local county, how long is Glenn plan on running? I would like to run for Congress at some point. And it pissed them off. They're like, you can't challenge the primary someone. I'm like, I didn't say that, but they were pissed. So I took that as a cue that it's not appropriate to try to run when there's a Republican there, or else there'd be a revolt with the people that are in those mechanisms. 2018, a guy named Tom Marino wins District 12, Pennsylvania, right? He ends up getting a serious illness, and so after he wins, he has to withdraw. So the way that works is it's not a normal primary process. Instead, each party gets to select, based on rules that they make up themselves, who will be their candidate. The Republicans, which whoever won the Republican nominee was going to win, it's like 80% Republican district, they decided to have what's called a conferee process. It's very complicated, but all you need to know was there was only 212 people that got to vote. So I would go to all these events. Now, you're trying to get only 212 people's vote matters. And one of the things I realized was people like shoehorn in. So let's say TheIndianJesus is one of the conferees. So after the event, I'd be like, TheIndianJesus would be like, Rob, let me ask you about this. What do you think about, legalization of marijuana? What do you think about that, man? Right? And I would answer him. Here's what would happen. One of the other 24 people that were running would be like, hey, Rob, how's it going? Who are you talking to here? Well, let me tell you what I think about legalization of marijuana. And they'd like shoehorn in. And I'd sit there like they're like fucking used car salesmen or something. So I'd be like, so I would end up over and over again, I'd end up like talking to some janitor, or I'd talk to the person that was catering. And a good friend I'm now good friends with, he was a political consultant that was hired for one of the other candidates. He comes after me and he's like, what the fuck are you doing? Those people you talking to ain't gonna vote. I'm like, I don't give a shit. I just like talking to people. I like politics. And if these people are gonna be assholes and shoehorn themselves in my conversation, fuck it. Let them do it. I'll talk to these people. And that's how I am. So I don't I just like talking to people about their views, their political views, their philosophical views. Even if I don't have strong opinions on it, I'll talk and listen.
Would you,
Debate's a little different.
That's a common
would
thing
you
that
want
like
to,
real quick, CJ. That's a common thing that like everybody thinks I'm constantly in debate mode, and then also because most of the people who join the Discord and the after party happen to be Christians, then when we get into it, it is about religion. And like I specifically, like even though yes, I'm the atheist, I've definitely stepped back from doing direct religious content because of the fact that it turns people away.
You want to know what I? There's our man EOD. You want to know what I used to get? I do call-in shows every day, right? I can't tell. You can ask EOD. He was around for this because I debated Jim Bob on the 19th Amendment, repealing the 19th Amendment. There was a solid month where every call is like, I want to talk about the 19th Amendment. Then I became known as like, well, this guy that's pretty based on most of our beliefs, except he's constantly going off about the 19th Amendment. It's like, that's because that's what people are calling in to talk to me.
Like
I actually don't care about the 19th Amendment, but I'm giving my honest opinion. You know, and so it's weird. It's self-fulfilling
like
how it works.
One talking point goes viral, and then that's what you become known as.
And at least you're not like some of the people that you've debated, like Destiny, who will actively try to have that happen.
Yes.
Destiny goes back
That's
to
what they
being a
speak
normal
out, yeah.
person after his debates, by the way. I don't know if you've noticed
Say that again, Box. Wait, what did you say?
Destiny will spurg out on like peers, and then he'll go right back to his live stream and cut, and he's like a completely different person. He goes right back to being moderate, normal person.
He knows what he's doing.
afterwards. It's
Well,
wild.
that's how Twitch works. That's how Twitch works. He's got his base on Twitch where he
On
is
Twitch,
like
he's
banned.
there.
Yeah, he's banned on Twitch.
He's been banned on
kicked
Twitch
out
for
with
years now.
kids.
Yeah.
Kicks his
Yeah.
big platform. Kicking
All,
yours.
he goes
all
back
of
to-
Twitch will collapse when he got fucking kicked off Twitch.
Yeah, the irony was the lefties were salivating. Ooh, we'll get his audience. And then it collapsed. It was like, you dumb sons of bitches. You're all just bad Destiny clones.
Yes.
You're celebrating him getting kicked off. And now you not only don't get his audience moved with him. It's like, you idiots. But, you know, you can't talk sense into those guys.
I got a good either or. Who's worse, Destiny
Hassan
or
or
Hassan?
That's
Yeah.
not even a question. Are you
I don't
kidding
know,
me?
man.
The resident
No,
lefty answered
it's-
that first.
It's a pretty good question. I think we can make arguments for both. They're both pretty. I would say
Admonishable people for sure.
only because I've watched Destiny actually have the balls to go on Timcast and be the liberal in the room and actually have the balls to try to face up to his own debates. I'd say Hassan is worse because
Well,
Hassan's a coward and Hassan
yes,
would
that-
never.
That is
Hassan
a
would never
virtue.
go to that
But
space.
is he actually a criminal?
Well, I don't. So a virtue that we
Maybe.
can talk about a moral claim would be
I'm not talking
cowardice.
about criminality.
I don't
I'm
even
like,
care
those are
about
my
the dog, honestly. People shock their dogs. They sell those colors for.
Not like that, homie.
that's-
If anybody out there
That is
doesn't
animal
know,
abuse.
if anybody out there doesn't know, I am a professional dog trainer, and
Oh, no
Christy
shit.
Christy
Somebody-
Nome wrote a book and she put in there how she
Right.
had to put down her
Box.
dog.
That's different.
I did. I put
down.
I did a TikTok about Hassan. I did repost it here, but it's almost at 1 million views. It's been used all over the place. And this was like right after the initial clip, and then all this other stuff came out. If anybody is still questioning, that motherfucker shocked his dog because she was in.
He
the
absolutely
wrong
did.
place. End of story.
Box.
Get off the cot. Don't get off the cot. No.
You got both the
Sit
dog
there and
lovers
I get it.
content.
It crossed some lines. I
Hold
get it.
on. Let's go CT and then go outside.
I have a question specifically for Box because Box in these conversations you always just play the contrarian and you always just want to be the contrarian.
Well, remember we
give
do
you my
have
honest
box.
opinion.
We do
But-
have box
but
in the
hold on,
after
no.
party. We don't have Rob forever. So
Hold on.
maybe
It's all right,
you
I'll
wanna
let it go.
play.
Hold on, I'll make it short. You say Hassan is worse than, or you say Destiny is worse than Hassan, correct?
No, I think Hassan is way worse than Destiny by a country mile.
Okay, but just for other reasons, not for the dog shocking thing. Just because
He's a horrible piece of shit, and I don't know how
Okay.
he's still on Twitch.
okay.
Honestly.
Was it interviewing
That was all.
terrorists that
I just
sent you
wanted
over
to
the edge on
specify.
Hassan?
Threatening to kill.
That's the lefty position for most of the
Even like-
lefties I know right now too. They're like, "Fuck Hassan. What is even going on right now? That guy's a piece of shit."
Well,
And it's
look,
not even about the dog. It was like before that. I've been on this bandwagon for almost 2 years.
Well, here's the thing, right? So there's a lot of ways when you say worse, that's a very loaded word. Like, do we mean morally? Do we mean individually?
Right.
We mean what do they represent? When it comes to like skill, like absolutely CT's right. One thing I can say about Destiny, he is a good debater and he is not a coward. Now, he ran for me, but it's not necessarily an act of cowardice. And I'll explain, right? If you know someone, like, put it in terms of boxing or UFC, right? Or if you really are lame like me, the movie Rocky. You remember in Rocky 3? So when Mick, his trainer's like trying to convince him not to fight Mr. T, Clubber Lang, right?
Bury ya.
The reason is you don't want to fight someone. It's not that you're afraid you'll lose. It's that you know it'll be a challenge. So why would you take a debate with someone who has a far less audience to you? There's no upside for you. If you lose to some guy with like no audience, that looks real bad for you if your brand's to be a big time debater. And if you win, so what? That's what's expected.
Yeah,
anyways.
I don't really see that anyways. I don't see losses as like, I don't count losses. It's like the Michael Jordan quote, like he missed how many baskets, you know, over the, but does that not mean he's the greatest?
I agree.
I learned from the losses. We should all learn from those
But
losses.
that's not
that's
how
important.
I agree. But listen, it's different when your brand is you're the big debater. You're the big left-wing debater. And if you take a loss, then people might say, you know what? We'll look to other debaters. Now, it doesn't work that way. But that's the ego of people, right? What do I get out of taking this debate? Now, me, I take call-ins. I'll take debates with anyone until they piss me off for various reasons. And then I'm like, okay. But nonetheless, that's the point. So I'm not saying Destiny's a coward that he was running for me. Quite to the contrary. What I'm saying is Destiny pretty much will wade in. He'll debate people that he knows are good if the circumstances are right. Hassan's dog shit. Hassan ain't debating anyone. He ain't debating anyone.
He's just hosting Houthis, man.
Come on, bro. Let him finish.
But there might be a claim that Destiny's worse, in that Destiny, at first glance, appears more reasonable. Hassan looks like a caricature of a radical progressive that doesn't know what the fuck he's talking about. So it's easier to dispense with him, even though he has a massive audience, right? Destiny, like, you could actually look and say, okay, I can see how a reasonable Democrat would be like, yeah, this guy's a voice, until you look at the details. And I think that the big thing with Destiny, and this is just me armchair psychologying it, I think that he crashes out and that one of his characteristics is constantly doubling down. So for me, I think when he's like a petulant child and he sees he's losing something. So in a debate, he'll spurg out when he's losing, but more importantly, when it's something in life. So take the first assassination attempt of Trump. Now, I'm not going to wade into this. I don't talk a lot about people's personal lives, but I am aware that Destiny had some shit going on, maybe with his wife, maybe with his son, personally around the time of that assassination attempt. So you're probably already in a iffy place. And let me say this from the bottom of my heart. I don't give a fuck what I think about Destiny. Anyone going through a divorce or an acrimonious situation with family like a child, I feel bad for. I do. So I just think that if you're already in that headspace, the assassination attempt of Trump and Trump coming up like a fucking boss and going fight, that had to be a moment that anyone that understands anything about politics was like, fuck, this guy might win. Like, that's pretty badass.
I cried.
No,
I ain't even gonna front. I cried, bro. I didn't fucking bawl.
No,
but
right.
there was a
When I
tear.
saw
I was
that,
like,
I was like,
yeah.
oh, this is it.
That was the first moment
it's
when I
on
was
now.
like, Trump's gonna win. Yeah, that
Right.
was the first moment.
So
where I was
Destiny probably was too. And Destiny's like, fuck, he's going to win. So what do? You lash out. You're passionate. You lash out and you're like, fuck it, you know? And, anyway, that guy that died, that firefighter died, fuck him. And then people are like, oh my God, you said that? Your mom likes Trump. What if it was her? And fuck her too. She deserves it too. She gets it. Every Trump supporter is fucking around finding out. And then, and I'll tell you right now, it's a little weird, but I was reaching out to people behind the scenes and I was like, listen, man, if you're really Destiny's friend, someone ought to sit this dude and tell him to take a week off or some shit, because he's going to say some shit he regrets and he's going to lose his channel or he's going to lose his influence. So tell him to take a breather, right? And, around that time, Pisco, who at this point was co-hosting a show with Destiny, is like, look, Destiny, just between me and you, right? You didn't want that bullet to actually kill Trump, did you? And Destiny's response was, I don't know what I could say because of terms of service, but I will say this. The worst thing that could have happened was the bullet not taking him out. Now, that's not a fucking joke. That's someone who's crashing out, who's spiraling. And I think that in some ways is worse than Hassan, because so much of what Destiny says seems far more well-spoken and reasonable than Hassan. So if you're an impressionable young person, you're looking at Hassan, you're like, this guy's a fucking joke. But if you're looking at Destiny, you're like, yeah, maybe that bullet should have taken him out.
Well,
and that's dangerous.
That's actually one thing I think that
on that point, Rob, though.
Well, hold on. Let's go to Guam Tech, and then we haven't gotten EOD, so we'll go to Guam Tech and then EOD. I'd love to hear from you, brother. Guam Tech.
Well, I was just going to mention that Destiny is obviously pretty damn smart when it comes to his marketing, right? So is it even possible too that Destiny is looking at this from the marketing standpoint of, okay, let's get everybody off of my divorce and all these allegations that are coming up against me, and I'm just going to say something completely freaking, out there that's going to piss everybody off, and that's what they'll focus on now. Basically pulling a CNN or an MSNBC.
Well, listen, that's why I was on a blacklist for Destiny, right? And then I got an offer. It was like tomfoolery, I think it was like, you want to debate Destiny? I said, he's blacklisted me. He's like, oh, I talked to him. He said, no blacklist, right? Well, that was around the time that one of these lawsuits were coming out. And I don't know if it's intentionally to change the subject, or maybe it's just like, dude, I'm fucking tired about thinking of this. You know what I could do? Good old Rob will argue with me about Russiagate. Fuck it. Let's do that for 2 hours, right? And so I was sort of a pleasant distraction, even though I think I did very well in the debate. So what? At least I'm not talking about this fucked up lawsuit. At least I've changed the discussion. And that's red meat for his audience, right? They're going to be like, great, argue with the righty.
One thing you can't say about him.
Like,
go ahead, ED.
Destiny went on and on and on for 4 or 5 hours, and then Rob finally tries to get a word in edgewise to get to the point that he wanted to talk about. Destiny's just ends up fucking rage quitting and then blacklisting Rob. Is ridiculous, man. Yeah. I will say that it is pretty damning for Destiny to have the attitude that he has about Trump supporters like Corey Compatore and whatnot. But I've never heard Destiny say that Rick Scott needs to be directly threatened, right? And shit like that. Like Hassan's been pretty fucking heavy on his rhetoric too, but I'm gonna go ahead and head out of here. IndianJesus, thanks for having me, bro. I will say that Rob's chat needs to pick up the slack. We need to get some super chats in. Y'all suck. IndianJesus is kicking our ass over here. What the fuck?
There you go.
Thanks,
thank you so very, very much for joining us. You are welcome any time, sir. Come on through. CT, I think you were gonna say something.
Yeah. And to Rob's last point about Destiny, him saying that he thinks the rhetoric that Destiny was saying about Trump's assassination was kind of like on the line. I kind of agree with what was that last gentleman's name that was from your chat?
EOD.
Yeah, I think I agree with him. I think Hassan said way more outlandish shit. If you ever watched Hassan's stream, and then you also kind of made the point of saying that like Hassan's audience thinks he's a joke. They don't.
No, they don't. I totally agree with that.
He has a very young, not very young, but he has a young Gen Z to young millennial audience, or old Gen Z to young millennial audience that believes everything he says, and
I would say, correct me if I'm wrong. I don't follow the numbers that much. I think at this point it is fair to say, when it comes to left-wing political streamers, that Hassan probably has a bigger audience than any other left-wing political streamer. I think he outpaces Destiny.
I think he's the top right now.
Yeah, I think that's true.
Yeah, and when this whole shock thing happened with his gorgeous dog Maya or
Kaya,
not Maya.
Cooking with Kaya. Oh shit.
Yeah, I've been hoping for his downfall for the last like 5 years.
I've been hoping for it too.
For something
Amen, brother.
To take down Hassan, and I thought this might have been able to do it, because if there's anything that Gen Z loves more than politics, it's dogs. And it didn't even make a dent. It didn't make a dent, man. They still defend this dude. They are still in the chats.
It's so much more insidious. It's absolutely more insidious, and it's been going on for so much longer, and it's sanctioned to some degree, right? All these other people, Destiny got kicked off with Twitch. Everyone else got kicked off with Twitch. He's still there.
The CEO of Twitch saying Hassan happy birthday.
Yeah, just sucking him off.
Here's the deal, right? I can't take credit for this. I saw someone else say this, but the thing is this. It's not that Hassan is popular despite his cruelty. The cruelty is the point. That's what's going on. There are an awful lot of very progressive lefties that are some of the most small-minded. They're the bullies, right? These are the people that always wanted to be the bully but couldn't be. They didn't have the physical strength to do it, but secretly, if they were capable, they would be some of the most outrageous abusers you'd ever see. Well, now, let me explain a little how this, like, in my job where I was working with people with autism, I had the smallest amount of authority. I had authority in that I would be in a house with a dude who's got mental disabilities and is autistic. And that means that I'm the boss, damn it. If I say we're having burgers for dinner, we're having burgers. Now, I approach that shit very seriously. And I was there at the behest of that person. And I allowed them to make the decisions from the bottom of my heart. I mean this because I always looked at myself as a very important job and I get to help someone live a meaningful life. But you would not believe the little petty assholes I saw that abused the small. Oh, you got authority over one autistic guy and you run with that like a fucking tyrant. And that's the type of people that watch Hassan. They can't wait for the excuse. We want the excuse to be bullies. We want the excuse to be violent. We want the excuse to be petty. And so that's one of the reasons Hassan is a good speaker. Hassan is attractive, and that matters, right? Hassan
makes a difference. He's an attractive, well-spoken liberal cuck, and it carries a lot of weight. He also has the backing of mainstream media, because his uncle is Cenk Uygur of the Young Turks. So he's got the backing of the mainstream. Every now and then you'll see Hassan on MSNBC or CNN or some other mainstream.
NPR the other day.
And don't worry, if you guys keep supporting me, I will be there. But hold on, real quick. We gotta stop the show for a big thank you to TV Viewerski. I already gave him a treat, but the $30 PayPal, guys. I am not looking forward to these push-ups, but remember, every $2 is a push-up. We are at $98. Thank you so very, very much,
Rob,
sir.
I think you're gonna have to catch up.
Just to finish
doing
the point
100 push-ups.
starting to make was I think the young crowd is definitely. I was hoping that this whole dog thing would push them away, and it hasn't. And I don't know. I think you are right that Ledge made a post. I forget. I think it was on the community tab, and it's kind of a metaphor to what we're talking about now, of how liberal women are the ones that yell that the ICE agents are breaking up families, and then they'll divorce the father and only let him see his kids once a month.
Yeah, I mean, that shit like that happens. It certainly does. It is amazing. It is amazing how the people that if you're a bully, how you extol the virtues of being an anti-bully. If you're a fascist, you extol the virtues of being an anti-fascist. It's amazing how that works, right? It's the yes, right. It's the guy that's telling you how he could kick everyone's ass. The real badass isn't telling you he can kick everyone's ass because he knows who he is.
The real badass is the quiet guy in the corner.
Right. Or the guy, if you see someone with real money that's real rich, they ain't flaunting it. The guy that's pretending to be rich is the guy with the gold chain and the fucking Rolex that's like, look at me, man, look at how wealthy. So, yeah, I mean, I do think that you see that a lot, like Hassan, and I think a lot of these satirical cartoons really nailed it, right? Where Hassan's like, this genocide's disgusting. Shut the fuck up, Kaya. Shut up, But anyways, back to the genocide.
I've seen a lot of funny,
the memes have been so good.
I've seen a lot of funny AI videos. I saw one AI video where it was Kaya gets out of the bed and tases Hassan.
But I mean, that's the kind of stuff that kind of bring it back to the core of why we're here. That is the kind of stuff that is too easily, or that people are too easily. It appeals to them too easily. There should be a cultural, not a legal, a cultural thing as to why we all, I think all of us here, including our resident lefty box, looks at that and is like, oh, fuck. Well, actually, no, you say you don't even give a shit. But there should be that, that's just a bad thing to do.
I do give a shit to some degree. That was abuse. What he was doing was not actually right. But like I say, there's a reason they sell those collars.
Yeah, right? And that's how I started out my video as a professional. There are good ways to use it, but that wasn't it. And I think that is part of why we're seeing such simpery and the sycophants are out there, because this is their identity. We don't have a culture anymore. Trans is the new emo, and everything is just through a screen. And then you get Hassan being the biggest streamer. And I think if we can break the the association of right and Christian, political right and Christian, then there will be people like that. As Rob was saying earlier, there's 5 different types of people watching a debate. Okay, we're not going to get the ones that are already bought in, but there's 3 out of 2 groups there to be to be convinced.
But look, I have to say, I on the topic of like what you and what you all were talking about earlier, I think to Rob's point, I think we are in the middle of kind of a spiritual awakening, and we've had this conversation before. But I think to disagree with you, I think there's one portion of the people you're talking about that aren't culturally fractured, and that's the right religious movement, mostly Christian. It's because of Israel, Jews have gotten kind of mixed in it, and because some people are Zionists and some people are anti-Zionists, so that makes it a little complicated. But for the most part, the religious right is the unfractured body.
Well, I put it this way. I think I agree with that to some extent. I think one of the things that's worth looking at is that our opponents, what I would consider sort of like the establishmentarians, the blob, the deep state, whatever you want to call it, and particularly the left is the sort of front voice of them. They understand the utility of going into spaces that they don't control. And so there's definitely an incentive for the left to try to infiltrate the church, right? That happens. There are other institutions. For example, if we're all sitting here 10 years ago, we'd be like, name me institutions in the country you think are traditional masculine, like men's spaces. Inevitably, you would have said something like this, like the military, the fucking Marines, right? Well, no, they found a way to deal with
the Freemasons.
They found a way to deal with the military. They kicked everyone out that wouldn't take their vaccine. That was some of the most hardcore right-wingers. Then we're going to install a bunch of generals and shit that put all this woke bullshit in there. And now all of a sudden, this institution that you'd be like, this is unassailable. This is always going to be masculine by virtue of what it is. It's always going to lean conservative. Is it? And so I think you're right. That, to me, is a clear block, but that's all the more reason for these religious right people to be vigilant, because they see this as they're going to come for us like they're doing the Protestant church, like so I agree with that. I want to make one thing real quick. When I said Hassan's, it's not that Hassan doesn't have a big audience or that they don't take him seriously. What I mean is the mainstream movement of politics, Hassan's sort of hemmed in, right? Hassan's got his audience and they're going to love him.
He's trapped.
Yeah, but no one takes him seriously outside of the people that are already politically captured, and talent and skill won't matter. People will take Destiny seriously because he's capable of debating. And so it's like, look, yes, Destiny has an audience like Hassan has an audience, but Destiny could reach people on a litany of topics that would be people that are sort of centrist, sort of right-wing, and they'll be like, yeah, Destiny makes a good point there. What the fuck is Hassan's points? He can't debate. Yeah. He can't articulate points. So
I'm for the current thing.
Yes.
It's so true. It's so true. Everything you're saying is true. The lefty perspective agrees.
I wanted to actually bring up too, what CT was saying as far as like the right not being fractured. Maybe within their own in-group, they're not fractured, right? But I do think that there was a point where they were fractured from the cultural whole. Right.
You're talking about Christianity specifically?
Christianity and conservative Christianity. But basically what I'm trying to kind of make a point on the fact that it took fracturing from the broader culture for Christianity to finally get off of their asses and stop just relying on a book. We're starting to finally see people actually coming out of the woodwork to be able to make more intellectual
arguments. When you say Christianity, though,
hold on, CT. Let him finish.
Yes, to be able to make more of an effort on and intellectually back up what they believe, even if they can't go over the entire like factual parts of the Bible, they can at least go over the morals of the Bible and be able to use those to their arguments. But my question is, if the right has been sharpened by iron up to this point to do that, where does the left go from here? I mean, what is their sharpening? Where
Well,
are they going to go crazier, or are they going to learn from their mistakes?
Can I answer this?
And actually fucking do something.
Can I answer this?
Well, hold on, Box. Let's see what Rob has to say, and then you can respond to that.
Yeah, I'll try to be brief about this. Like, yeah, it's certainly one of two directions. They could try to come more to a centrist perspective, or they could double down and getting more radical. And the success, who are the rock stars right now that you would consider in the Democratic Party? Mamadani? He's
Ro Khanna.
Ro Khanna's in the other camp, right? But sure, like AOC, Mamdani, like these people where it's like, I think that their momentum is there, that they're going to just have to get more and more radical. This is the problem.
AOC is washed up.
Well, she does, yes. But the problem is when you get in bed with, so much of your base becomes radical, how do you back down from that? Right. And they're in an unenviable position because if they say anything, it's always been a really fractured group. How does this make sense, for example? Well, LGBT is the party. That's Democrats are the party for them, right? And Muslims. How does that make sense? It's like, wait a minute. Like, from the perspective of what Christians think of the LGBT versus Muslims, generally, the Muslims are going to have a harsher view on that than Christians. So how does it make sense? And it's because they have built a coalition on sort of this victimhood mentality, this oppressed versus oppressor. And Donald Trump is very convenient for the left because he is literally like a cartoon character of everything that they think is bad. He's rich. He's white. He's allegedly Christian. He's powerful, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So it's easy to say, hey, Muslims, fuck that guy, right? And they're like, yeah. Hey, LGBT, fuck that guy, right? Yeah. Hey, a union member, fuck that guy, right? Yeah. And down the list. The problem's going to be Trump ain't going to be there again. And what is the lesson that the Democrats have learned? What's their autopsy of the 2024 election?
Nerf.
Racism.
It's so bad.
And you're like, oh my God, are you guys going to learn your lesson? Or are you just going to keep doubling down? And I don't know what they do once Trump's gone. If you get someone who's Trumpian but more articulate like J.D. Vance, they're fucked. Because they have no choice but to rely on.
So what do you think of that?
Scandals.
Yeah,
what do you think of that, Box?
So look, man. Here's the idea. Like, I understand that you got the crazy goddamn left and shit. From the moderate left perspective, it's basically like, how do we make this fucking work? Like, I'm not jumping off into like who should be allowed into what sports. I think this is all literally just a distraction from the fact that there's a whole bunch of issues at hand here that we have to deal with, and we're just not.
But
go
ahead, Rob.
But a lot of these, forget about that issue. There's a lot of important policy issues that are 80-20 that Democrats are on the wrong side of, like illegal immigration. Now, what they're going to have to do is say, you're right, a lot of people need to be deported, but the way in which you're doing it is wrong. That's what they're going to have to come to, right? But they can't just be like amnesty for everyone. It's not going to fly.
Can I ask a question kind of for the panel, kind of for everyone?
Sure.
Because we're going back and forth about like kind of sides, kind of side A, side B, left, right, politics, blah, blah.
Yeah, sure. What's the question?
How much of this do you think is actually one-sided to one or the other? I know Rob's brought up the 80-20 issues. How much of this do you think is one-sided versus playing into kind of the uniparty's handbook?
Well, if we're talking culturally, I think there's a lot of issues that are 80-20. We talk about the trans stuff. We talk about the racist. Everything is racist. I mean, even getting into women voting, that's becoming damn wires here. That's becoming more and more popular, and for better or worse, I think there is a movement towards, or at least away from the liberal orthodoxy that we've seen. Like Crowder just put out a video today. Keira Knightley is doing the audiobook for some Harry Potter shit, and someone asked, she was doing an interview. And someone asked Keira Knightley, do you have any concerns about the fact that this, that, and she's like, didn't know about that. Yeah, but we got to look at it. And so, again, that doesn't mean that wokeness is over. That doesn't mean that the left is not a threat. But the landscape is very different than it was 3 years ago.
I think
that's the first time I've laughed from Crowder in a long time.
Yeah, it's good. I think that like when it comes to these issues, right? Like I don't know if I ask someone seriously, I don't know, maybe we'll ask Box here. Like if I ask you seriously, like what is the policies the Democrats stand for other than these 80-20 issues? Almost every single thing they're going to say, not what you want the Democrats to stand.
So here's
but let me finish real quick. Then I promise. Okay. Like it's not that there's not ideas that someone like Box might have. Like Box might be like Medicare for all, right? Hypothetically,
no, I don't know.
Okay, but what are the Democrats talking about? And literally, the only thing they're talking about is resist Trump. Trump does X, we say Y.
They're so bad. So I sent a super chat out earlier, and I was like, what we're doing right now is we're busy plotting, right? The left right now is busy plotting. What we're plotting right now is who we're going to elect next and what we want them to stand for, essentially. And like, you can I know that the right is all caught up in all this identity politics and all this stupid shit. It's basically 30% of disagreements on nearly 70% of shit we can have a conversation about that makes sense to most people and that actually helps fucking people.
But see,
and my problem right now is that the Democrats are doing so poorly that if they continue to lose, what we're going to end up with is a uniparty. We're going to have one party. It's going to be the Republican Party. Everyone's going to vote Republican. They're going to catch a supermajority, and this is actually a verge of a slippery slope. And it's not like
hold on. CT. We've had this conversation a million times, so I would love to hear what Rob has to say. Let's let Box finish, and then I'd love to go to Rob, and then I have a little comment, and then we'll go to you.
What I want to see happen basically is I want the left to do well, and I want them to mean well, and I want them to have like goals that lead to outcomes that we can to some degree agree on, even if we don't agree that some dude should piss next to your daughter in the bathroom, which I'm talking about uniparty. I'm talking about the consolidation of government, which could actually happen if the Democrats continue to do as poorly as they're doing right now. This is why I want to help the Democrats, right? I'm a liberal insofar as like I don't want one party to control this shit, and I want to try to make the strongest argument I can for the left in any given circumstance. And I feel like a lot of this is just bullshit.
Okay, real quick to go through these one by one. The idea that it's like, a bunch of this shit like the trans issues don't matter. It does, as we already said, that's sort of a cultural on-ramp. And the thing is, it's easy from the perspective of a lefty that wants to see Democrats win to be like, hey, never mind all that crazy shit we shoved down your throat for 10 years. We're better. We're better now. Let's not talk about that. We're better now. Forget about all that crazy shit. We called you a racist every time you said something, but now we're cool. Those are irrelevant issues. No, I assure you, those people are waiting to do the exact same thing as soon as they get back into a position of power. Just like they didn't give a shit about the border. They told us in 2021, border secure. 2022, border secure. 2023, border secure. 2024, oh, what's that, election year? Oh, yeah, the border is shit, but it's Trump's fault. Right? They don't give a fuck about the border. In fact, quite to the contrary, they were happy with the situation. But they see it's an election year, so now they have to pretend. Same with this transit. Same with the race shit. Yes, it still exists. That stuff's still there. And I understand someone from the perspective of wanting Democrats to win is going to be like, oh, that's irrelevant. That's irrelevant shit. No, it's not. And it's fresh in people's mind. And I hope that me and TheIndianJesus and people like us remind people that's exactly what these people truly believe. They actually believe it. And they're lying to us now saying they don't, because they realize it's not popular to win elections. And the same type of person that wants to call me racist for every little disagreement I have and want to talk about microaggressions and want to say that there's no biological reality, those same people want to be as tyrannical and nonsensical when it comes to taxation policy, when it comes to border policy and all this other shit. So I disagree with you.
We're much more
dilly to that.
Then I think we're led to believe in general.
So I disagree with you on that part. To the idea of a uniparty, one, I say non-unique.
I'm worried about the uniparty.
Okay, I say non-unique. Before Trump, we had a uniparty. They may have called themselves.
Democrats. Yeah, it was
Box. Hold on.
No. It wasn't just the Democrats. It was both parties. You don't think that the people that are really the movers and shakers in this culture gave a shit if it was going to be Jeb Bush versus Hillary Clinton? They give a fuck. Heads I win, tails you lose. We want to have aggressive interventionist foreign policy. Is Jeb Bush going to do that? Yep. Is Hillary Clinton going to do that? Yep. We want to bail out the banks. Jeb Bush going to do that? Yep. Hillary Clinton going to do that? Yep. Preach. Sure, they'll argue about gay marriage. They'll argue about abortion. But when it comes to the important issues that's consolidating power for the powerful, they're going to agree. Donald Trump, whatever you think of him, was someone that was seen as outside of that uniparty that had already existed there. He had a chance because he happened to be independently wealthy. And regardless of what you think of him, even if you hate him, he was very charismatic. And he was the right person at the right time. He checked all the boxes to be an outsider or a potential outsider to have a chance. So I just fundamentally disagree that we haven't already experienced a uniparty, and now this is sort of an escape from that uniparty. But the last thing I'll say in this real quick is, no, you're wrong anyways, because at best, a Trump coalition will win for 12 to 16 years before it would force another side to say, no, we have to moderate at this point, point out the excesses of this, and then say, okay, yes, we're now a new party that didn't believe in that transit, and we didn't believe in that race shit, and we did believe in secure borders. However, we think that the specific things, saying that it's against the First Amendment to burn a flag, bullshit, we disagree with that. Saying that we shouldn't have a slightly higher tax break, bullshit, we disagree with that. That's what will inevitably happen.
Yeah, you're going to watch all that disappear very slowly over the next 3 years. I guarantee it.
We'll see. We'll see. All right, let's go to CT.
Box, you immediately misinterpreted the question I asked. I asked about... I'm just saying, I asked about a uniparty. Loser! And you immediately jumped in and said that if we don't change course, you think the uniparty is going to be the Republican Party. That's not a uniparty.
Not Republican. The Republican Party will end up taking over all the vote. It is the swamp. We're already dealing with the swamp. So what ended up happening is for years. Hold on. For years, the Democrats.
Well, hold on, Box. But let him clarify. Box. Okay, you were just talking. Let CT clarify, and then you can respond.
Let me clarify, let him clarify.
Yeah, CT, you clarify, and then Box, you can respond.
So by uniparty, I mean basically exactly what Rob just said, in that it's tails you win, heads I lose, and that for the small issues they have us fighting. It's a divide and conquer mentality, where they want us arguing with each other, but for the actual major issues. For instance, an example I'll use is the Patriot Act. After 9/11, the Patriot Act was passed with flying colors. We can't argue on a budget for the last 20 years. We've never been able to get a budget passed. But when they talk about a global spy program that includes international and domestic assets to spy on me, yes, but that is the uniparty. And even though it was passed under George Bush, it was expanded under Barack Obama. It was almost not. Well, it wasn't shut down under Trump. But there was no new wars, and then it was expanded again under Biden. So the point is that when I say uniparty, I mean a bipartisan government apparatus, and you immediately jump to saying that you think the Republican Party is about to take over. That's insane.
I think that's the avenue it's going to take. Yeah. It's not their fault. It's not a slight against them, basically, right? So what ended up happening was the left was always get money out of politics.
When you say it's not their fault, who's them?
And then the right did what the left wanted to do, and the fucking left got pissed off about.
I'm going to cut you guys off because I would like to. I think this is a more broad conversation that we can definitely have in the after party. I have one more thing that I want specifically Rob to respond to, but I would like opinions from everyone. So before we do that, does anybody have any more specific questions for Rob?
One last thing I did want to actually bring up super quickly. Rob, you said something super freaking awesome about relating that the left is not an organization, or I'm sorry, that Antifa is not an organization, but you related it to the mafia a couple of days ago. Mm-hmm. Would you be able to just paraphrase that super quickly?
Sure.
Again, just because I thought it was brilliant.
You had people, even I think it was Hoover, denied the existence of the mafia even when it was evident, right? And the argument was, well, the mafia is just sort of a broad ranging for organized crime of an Italian nature. And there's no official organization named the mafia. And yet we can see there are organizations, crime families like the Gambino family, etc., that fall under that moniker. It's very similar with Antifa. You're right that Antifa is a broad-ranging name, right? And there's no organization that says we are Antifa. But there are organizations within it, just like the Gambino family was an organization within the mafia. You have the John Brown Gun Club, you have Rose City Antifa, and all these other groups. What the left is trying to do is say it would be no different than saying, like, oh, we'll make the mafia a terrorist organization, or we'll go after the mafia with RICO, but there's no organization named the mafia. And it's like, well, you're right. When filling out that paperwork, you would have to be technical on what that organization is named. We all know that there are broad strokes a mafia and that we should go after them. It's the same with Antifa. And what the left wants to do is say, well, because there's an Antifa, it's like sort of saying white supremacist. Right? It's like, Antifa is a category of people, like white supremacists is a category of people. And you can't make white supremacists something to go after, but you can, and they do. And so that's what's happening. You have this language game that's trying to be played, and what it's done is justified the amounts of violence that we see from groups like Antifa occur over and over again. And, I've been using this quote a lot recently this week. It's like so much of arguing with the left is them pretending to not know basic things, which makes general discourse impossible. We all know what we're talking about. We've seen the footage. You can see it over and over. Someone occupied the Jazz Zone. Was it just an idea? Chris Ray said there is no Antifa, it's just an idea. Oh, so I guess that young African-American that got shot in the Jazz Zone and died, I guess you could tell his mother, don't be sad. That was an idea that killed your son, not a human being. And that's sort of how I'm comparing it to the mafia,
Great analogy. As was that Box? Beautiful. Box said a great analogy. Yeah, I like that. Beautiful. Anything else? Last chance to ask Rob a question, for at least this stream. Hopefully he'll come back.
I'll be back. Yeah.
No. All right. So I put this tweet out earlier. And again, remember we were talking about religion and politics and all that stuff. So let me just read this out. Oh, Rob, one thing. I have a pet peeve. When people are on stream reading something, you should be reading slower than you normally talk. Even if you talk fast, like we both do, you slow it down. I see so many people being like, no, he's perfect. So why? But whoa.
I do that. You're definitely right. Yeah.
It's just a pet peeve. I notice it with everybody. And so we'll leave that there. So as the tweet says, nobody is perfect. So why then, if a Christian and a moral atheist are in a debate, that it's a reasonable point to make about not having objective morality if people don't even follow the morality? There's way more Christians in prisons than atheists, even before the Dems started letting Antifa run wild. So what is the point of an objective, when I say objective morality, where'd it go? What is the point of objective morality if people don't adhere to it? If Christians were perfectly moral, I wouldn't have a leg to stand on. But it seems like an unearned axiom that appealing to an objective morality is better than every single possible secular moral structure. I'm not saying that everyone appealing to my preferences, as the Crucible would call it, is better. I'm saying the larger agreement upon a potential effective, subjective, moral structure would have the nation looking a lot closer to what the orthobros want than feeding into the leftist rabid hive mind. If, hypothetically, we could get people to act, quote, more Christ-like by not making faith a necessary factor to buy in, and no one was stopping you from personally believing that Christianity is the way, how is that bad? If your answer is merely that's not what you believe God wants or something like that, then you're making my point for you. If that's your position, then you care more about being right than living in a moral society.
Now, again, I'll say this. I'm not the target audience necessarily for that tweet, but I know what they would say, or at least part of what they would say is because it has to do with the effectiveness of the strategy. And they would say, because you're right, if you could wave a magic wand and have people act Christ-like and act within the exact frameworks of Christianity, but just say, but you know what, I don't believe Christ is the Son of God, they would say, sure, I guess society would be better off than a bunch of people saying, I believe Christ is the Son of God, but then they're out there doing a bunch of heinous shit, right? Like arguably, but it's not possible. The problem will be without that objective standard for truth that we're shooting for, and that's the key. You're right. It's even if we can't meet it, that's not a good thing. If there's an objective morality and we can't meet it, that's something that's worth being like, but at least we have something to shoot for. We know this is the way to behave. And unless we know that, unless we say this is it, this is what we're reaching for, then we won't have a society that pushes for that. And it would not be possible to get there through a subjective morality. And so hypothetically, now what I would say, and maybe this differs from, other people like Andrew or someone like that, what I would say is, that might be true at a broad stance. I think, and I have made that point. I don't think society, I think I agree with the ortho bros on that in the broad stance, but in the individual, I disagree. I think that an individual can operate in a way that I would basically say, like an individual could say, I should be a strong provider for my wife and for my child, and I should be against abortion, and I should be against this woke shit. And hell, maybe I'm even against the LGBT shit, and I'm against all this shit. And I'm like checking all the boxes for me. And you're like, but actually, I don't believe in God. I'm just like, okay, well, you should believe in God for your own soul. However, I don't have a problem with you, right? That's fine by me. Or I'm Jewish, okay, right? Like that's how I look at it. So I think that it is possible at the individual level, but I think broadly, societally, I don't know that it is. I don't know that if we don't have that appeal to an objective truth, that enough people will head in that direction.
Fair enough. Yeah. Damn. And I think that what you're getting at, as what they would say. I think that goes back to the notion of, well, it's not really as objective as that's as a whole other.
Sure.
I also wanted to bring something up about the more Christians in prison thing. I'm pretty sure that that's because more people convert while being in prison. Or it could be. I don't. They weren't Christian. Maybe they weren't Christian when they come
Well,
out.
I guess it. Well, here's the other problem with that. I guess you would say, like, where are we limiting that geographically? Because my guess is around the world, there's probably more non-Christians in prison than Christians.
In America.
But in America,
but even if we want to take out, even if we want on intake, do you honestly think that there would be a higher atheist population across America getting arrested than people who at least identify as Christian? Or let me put it this way: people who identify as agnostic or atheist versus somebody who does not.
I think per capita, probably. The problem's going to be there's probably more people that identify as Christian by a large margin in the United States than identify as atheist or agnostic. And so you would expect to see more Christians. But if it was per capita, then I question that. I think that, and there's another categorization problem, which it would be like, well, how many people are just saying they're Christians? Right? And is it appeal to, like, if I'm trying to get out of prison and I'm trying to get parole, I'm going to say, I found Jesus, or, I am a very religious man and I made a mistake and you all should be forgiving like Christ is forgiving. So I don't know. I guess a better way that I would word it is this: as people become more secular, are they more likely to end up in prison? And I believe the answer to that would be yes.
Yes, because of the fact that we don't have a secular moral system and they are left out of some structure that they can buy into.
That's maybe that's the case, but I do believe that is not an ought question, but an is question. I think the is question is yes. You have more people that are more secular per capita in there than Christian.
That's on that topic, what I'm trying to change. So yeah, CT, we'll go to you for any closing thoughts for Rob, me, or the panel.
Well, just on that last topic, I think there's also a part that plays in it where the people that might be criminals kind of have the philosophy of a fallacy of judgment, saying they kind of don't they don't respect the mechanisms of judgment that we have on this earth, because they think they're going to be judged in a spiritual realm. So they're like, you can't judge me, and they might commit more crimes because they feel like they're not because they feel like the justice system is not their moral compass. Their moral compass they might get from a religious standpoint. I don't know for sure. I'm just hypothetically speaking.
Yeah, that's why we don't want the government to be the arbiter of morality. Yeah. We want our culture to be that arbiter, but that culture of being moral has to include people that don't believe the same thing as you do.
No, yeah.
Otherwise, we get Antifa.
Well, I don't think Antifa believes in what I just said. I think Antifa believes that they're not wrong regardless. But separate, that's a whole other conversation for next time. We can tackle that next time. As far as for Rob, thanks for indulging us in your debate conversation and letting us come up and talk to you. Yeah, cheers, man. I think I've been on a couple panels, only one that you were actually on, but I know I watched the different panels that you go on, and it's always a fun conversation. And like I said before, it was nice to see you in a more slowed down pace, not trying to do like blood sport debate, but just trying to kind of talk to us.
That might be in the future, but I ain't ready for that yet.
No, I appreciate it. Thank you so much for the kind words. It was my pleasure. So.
Thank you so very much for joining us, CT. I know I will see you in the after party, guys. Nobody's joined. It is a free day pass, so come on through. Who was up first? Let's go to Boxer. Final words for Rob or the people.
Yeah, am I here, Mike Chuck? Is this working?
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
So I want, like I say, I want the left to do well, and I want them to do well in the right kind of ways, and not necessarily what's going on. I feel like Rob might be being trolled by like just a whole bunch of juveniles. You know, it's like you're like the substitute teacher in the classroom, and everyone's giving you the runaround with all the bullshit they yell at you. I think that most of the normal lefties, like I'm just a normal dude. Most people are just normal people, and I feel like you're probably getting like the crazy edge of all this shit, and that's very unfortunate and somehow allowed for some reason. I don't know, Hassan Piker. And then you know, I just, like I say, I feel like there's a much more moderate conversation here that can be had with the left that actually makes sense. Like, we should be talking about like how much money we're going to spend on old people for like Social Security, how we're going to fund that, like what Medicare kind of looks like. I don't even like Medicare for all, but the idea that like we don't let grandmas eat cat food, and we want to try to help people. We're the richest country on the face of the planet. We're a Christian country, and I feel like we're obligated to help the people that need helping, and everyone else can fuck off at that point. And I feel like the left needs to cut this off permanently, like just cancer, basically. And we will do that over the next 3 years. You'll watch this shift happen. That's about it.
I'll say this, right? Like, on one hand, I agree with part of what you say. I certainly think I get a slice of the more radical ones. However, I think they are more representative of the average Democrat than what you would lead on.
It's unacceptable.
I
agree.
So I'll tell you real quick, just a quick story. When I ran for Congress, my campaign manager was a former debate partner of mine and friend. He's a centrist Democrat. He really is. And I remember during the pandemic, there was this Reddit site that was going around. It was calling itself the Herman Cain Awards. And it was making fun of Herman Cain for dying of COVID because he didn't wear a mask. Now, never mind that that's the opposite of how we were told masks work. We were told masks didn't protect you. They protected other people. So Herman Cain dying of COVID, it was irrelevant whether or not he had a mask on. Nonetheless, they were mocking him for dying. And I remember talking to my centrist friend, and I said, man, I feel like 10 to 15% of Democrats want me to die if I don't agree with them on this COVID shit. And this is a centrist Democrat and said, oh no, the number's way higher than 10 to 15%.
Yeah, I feel that I'm 10 to 15%. You're definitely higher.
Yeah. So, I mean, so even if it's not the majority, like once you start to get into, roughly half the country will say, well, 80 million people voted for Joe Biden, allegedly. So if we're talking like 30% of those 80 million want me to die because I disagreed with them on COVID, that's a huge fucking problem. And I think it's incumbent on the other 70% of Democrats, whatever that would be like, this is totally fucking unacceptable. Yeah. And if necessary, we'll vote with the other party to get this fucking crazy shit out. That's where I'm at right now. So,
yeah, absolutely going to try to quash the shit out of that. It's unacceptable.
Good luck.
It's I know. That's incumbent on me, right? It's my party, right? Yeah. Like, I have to deal with this, right? The right deals with the right, and the left deals with the left, and I have to go fucking do battle with my own fucking party to figure this shit out. And all this shit's unacceptable. Like, I hear all your grievances, and I'm like, Yes, I agree. We can get around all this, and we can do things like get people in houses and give them jobs. Like if the left just went on jobs and houses, like we'll get you jobs and houses, we would win the shit out of everything if we just dropped all the rest of the bullshit and never said, like, you brought it up and we just like looked at you like we hit a blue screen of death or something. We never said another word about it ever again. Dems would start winning again. Right?
So,
jobs and houses, houses and jobs, jobs and houses.
So one thing you said there that's really prescient, and I hope that people take this to heart. People are more willing to listen to people that are politically aligned with them somewhat. So one of the reasons that the left struggles so mightily to debate a white nationalist is because they just refuse to hear anything they say, right? I'll have far more attempts at having success against white nationalists because I could actually listen to them and say, actually, a lot of what you're saying is correct. Like, white people have been treated like shit in this country. However, the solution you're offering is incorrect. That's the problem. Whereas a lefty will listen to that and go, you fucking bigot, you fucking racist. Similarly, ain't no lefty going to listen to me. They're going to be like, fuck you. You support Trump. He's a horrible piece of shit person. Why would we listen to you?
And I'm listening to you.
That's exactly. That's where I come in.
But the more radical people on the left, it's not going to be able to be reached by people like me. It's going to have to be people like you that are on the left. And they're saying, like, this is where people like Brett Weinstein comes in. He's like, dude, I'm a Democrat. I'm a liberal, right? He and you will have more luck talking to the radical left than me because I'm just going to be enemy, target, fuck this guy. We don't care what he says.
That's absolutely my goal. It's a 3-year goal. Basically, like I got the next 3 years to figure this the fuck out. Maybe a couple months till we're gonna get trashed. The Dems are gonna get trashed. They're throwing up Mandani. Yep. They're throwing up all these horrible people, dude. Nancy Pelosi might run again, and I want to throw up in my mouth. You know, and it's like,
right, brother, I want to give Glomtech a chance before.
Good luck to you, man.
Rob heads out. We'll definitely be talking about all of this in the Discord server. I see Glomtech already in there on the panel, guys. Again, the link is pinned. If you click that link before this stream is over, you get access to all the member stuff for a good 24 hours.
Put it in the private chat too, so I could link it to my audience, if you don't mind.
Yes, definitely. Box, thank you.
No marketing.
I don't mind.
Thank you, Rob. I also really appreciate you. That was really good.
No problem, man.
I liked all that.
In the private chat. Thank you so much, brother. We will see you in the after party. Guami Guam, what is good, brother? What do you have for us?
Man, I just have to say, I knew that this was going to be awesome. This is why I've been fighting for it for a little while. You probably see me in the chats every once in a while, Rob. Mm-hmm. This is awesome. I'm really glad you guys got to have this conversation. Definitely not as heated as, I'm sure a lot of people were expecting, which is good. We get enough heated debates. Sometimes it's nice to just hear people talk every once in a while. I can't really wait for the next one. And yeah, man, you guys are freaking awesome.
Thank you, man. I appreciate it.
Beautiful, brother. Thank you so very, very much for coming on up, adding to the conversation. I will see you, sir, in the after party. Take care, brother. All right, man. Well, god damn. I actually expected to, be leaving this conversation feeling like, well, I've got a lot of work to do. And I still feel like I've got a lot of work to do. But your position on, like, you want to include people that are, it's just about, or do you have the values, and really everything that you've been talking about has been much more reasonable is the wrong word, but like in line with what I would have wanted than I expected. I thought I was gonna be coming, all right, I gotta prove that the atheist can actually, and so I'm very happy that you were more open to it, and you do have those positions, willing to listen and giving pushback where not just like yeah sure, atheist, whatever you want. So I really appreciate it, and.
It was my pleasure, man, and I would be happy to come on at any time. I thought that it was, like, I always enjoy conversations like this because I think that what happens is a lot of people assume that people like me and you that they see on debates a lot, the only thing we're capable of is talking to people we disagree and making points, and that's not the case. And I do sincerely believe it's weird that it came out this way because I don't think either of us quite knew what to expect, but it is something I talk about a lot. And I talk about, one of the things I talk to people that are I don't want to say it this way, but it's sort of more right-wing than me, is like staying true to their principles and not diluting them to the point where they're unrecognizable, but also realizing for practical real-world wins that you have to be willing to work with people. Because if I would say it this way, I hate to even quote scripture, but the idea that more people get into heaven than those through the eye of a needle or whatever that verse is, I don't know, right? Like if you feel that
it's harder for a rich man to get into heaven than a camel to go through the eye of a needle. Oh, yeah. I got Christian, bro.
There you go. It's that's funny. It's very much, you would think, if you're a true Christian and believe that you're walking the path of the few. So if you need political victories, it can't just be the few. It has to be that you're willing to work with people that maybe won't make it to heaven with you. And so who do you decide to work with? And you have to pick and choose the issues you think are the most important. And I think that is an important way. Now, I know that there will be someone that wants to talk to me later. It's like, but Rob, you haven't factored in how that means that we will lose ourselves and we lose what makes us right-wing and what makes us Christian. You're right. There is a threshold where it becomes not worth it anymore. But in general, I stand by the principles of wanting to associate with and to promote a culture with and a politics with people that may not agree with me religiously, but agree with enough of my values that working with them is not only a morally righteous thing to do, but definitely pragmatic. So.
Fair the fuck enough, man. I got a lot out of this conversation, and that imposter syndrome of I'm sure you're not unfamiliar with, like, am I doing something here, or am I just talking shit, or any of that? And coming from you, it feels like I might be on the right track. So I got to thank you again so very, very much. I really appreciate this, and I'm sure this won't be the last time we talk, and we will definitely have to find something to debate on.
We will. I'm sure we will. Yeah.
But before
Flat Earth, baby, let's do it now. Dude, you wouldn't believe. I got stories for. Are you going to be at DebateCon?
I'm not. I couldn't find. I did. I wasn't thinking about it, and then Grid and all those people were like, "Oh, you gotta come through." But I got Morty, and short term is not ideal for me. But you guys will have an amazing time. But before we go, sir, if anybody missed the beginning and they for some reason don't know who you are, what you do, who are you, what do you do, and where can people find you? This floor, sir, is yours.
Rob Noerr. I consider myself a populist conservative. I stream almost every weekday around noon Eastern time on all platforms. Easiest place to find me is Normal America with Rob Noerr on YouTube. So that's noon Eastern time every weekday, call-in show, and then 10 p.m. Eastern pretty much every weekday, a regular show. So Normal America with Rob Noerr on YouTube. It was my pleasure to be here. Thanks so much. I would stick around for the after party, but I got to yell at my audience to donate money and all of that good stuff. So it's been a real pleasure, though, and hopefully we'll talk soon. Absolutely. Morty, thanks for having me, man. You were a perfect gentleman the entire time.
No shocks needed. Let's give him an extra treat. Why not? For the Rob Noerr crowd. Thank you so very, very much. I am looking forward to next time, brother. Thank you.
All right, have a good one, man. We'll see you.
Peace. All right, we still got Bucks over here. What's good, brother? It's time for push-ups. You better do. Oh wait, no, whatever. Oh, I had one. Where is it? I had a thing where it would have you as the smaller thing. But all right, I'm gonna drop you just because it's time. You guys know what fucking time it is. God damn it! I don't want to do push-ups. But you guys came the fuck through. God damn it. We just had 85 the other day, and now what are we at, 98? So that's what, 45, 67, 47? I'm bad at math. I gotta look at the thing. I'm waiting for the banner. So 98 is 45 plus 4, right? 47? Or God damn it. I don't give a shit. I'm using my calculator for basic math. Fuck all of you. 98 divided by 2 is 49. 49. That was stupid. Obviously. 49 push-ups Let's fucking go. You paid me. Now pay yourselves. Pay yourselves. American born, like I fucking told you. Like I fucking told you. Time to pay yourselves. Let's do it. Let's do it. 49 and maybe, I'll give you the extra 50 because you guys were awesome. Let's go. Whew. All right, 49. 49. Here we go. Here we go. Here we go. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, halfway, 26, 27, 28, 29, 30. Ah! All right, 30. We got 19 left. We got 19 left. We got this. We got this. Woo! Woo! Oh, all right. 19. We got this. We went to 30. 19 left. Let's do this. We ain't no bitch. We ain't no bitch. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Oh, all right. Oh God. How many is that? 30 plus. All right. Wait. Did I just? Oh, I'm 2 left. All right. I'll give you the extra. 3 more. 2 more. That's all we need. I'll give you the extra. Because my arms are weak. I need you guys. You can see. I need you guys for this. Let's go. We're hitting 50. Nice and toy. 47, 48, 49, 50. Shit! Holy shit! Give me 1 second. I'm just letting all new members, guys. If you just joined the Discord, the after party is in the Let Us Speak voice channel. Let Us Speak voice channel. We got another one. Mojack, welcome. Giving you the perms now, guys. The stream is still going. Everybody who's joined tonight has the access. Just head into the room. Let's see some of these chats, and then it's time for the after party. What did we miss? Shout out to the Crystal Master. If you want to see the conversation between me and Marilyn the Crystal Master, that was dropped today. So as soon as the stream is over, of course, you're going to leave a comment and put Morty in the comments because that's how much you love him. But after that, go check out our conversation. I think it was pretty interesting. Where are we at? Section 230 said blame Christians for everything instead of having accountability or personal responsibility. Ronnie said dumb people aren't immune to committing crimes. Very true. Well, then just keep donating. I'll get better. I'm a weak, puny little fucking bitch. I mean, I'm not lying. I need y'all's help. So, if I'm not strong enough to do 50 real push-ups, then guess what we gotta do? More push-ups. Oh, you guys are fucking around. Def Dot said, W for me. What did you guys think? I mean, I said atheists are fake and gay. Not fake. Definitely not gay. yeah, what did you guys think? I mean, we've talked about how I wanted to do a stream of like you guys who know me a little bit better, somebody who's a Christian and, specifically Guamtech, or somebody who thinks like Guamtech, the magical thinking, is open to all these ideas, doing an investigation of what it is that I do believe. Now, again, I didn't expect Rob to be that in line with, what I was saying, for no other reason than he's part of the Crucible. So take that right there as its own thing for what you will. I'm very happy that it's not a matter of, the Crucible is this monolith. Because that's the way it seems. I don't really know a lot of people associated with the Crucible outside of Andrew and Rob, but that's the way the internet works. I don't know all of the things that the people who say deport the atheists. I'm not watching all the stuff that they're saying. But I went, okay, all right, well, thank you, brother. And yeah, I think breaking in is what we need. Even though I don't believe in your religion, I am on your side against the people who are very clearly not on your side. And there's a lot of people like me. Enough that you need us to prevent them from being them. Just open the door. And it's just a matter of values. Do I agree with your values? Do you agree with my values? Then we're on the same fucking team. The super chat is broken. Don't forget, you can hit me up at TheIndianJesus on Venmo, CashApp, or PayPal, and I'll get it. Well, I mean, hey, if you send it to Venmo, I'll do the push-ups right now. Let's see it. But let's make sure we got everybody in the Discord. Beautiful. All right, guys. I think it is time to head to the after party. I'm trying to give you guys another minute in case you weren't sure and you want to join. Again, it is absolutely free to join. And by hitting the link, you get a day pass. You can come hang out. We're about to chit-chat for a little while about this, that, whatever. And there's a bunch of other channels there that you can only see if you are a member that you are going to get access to. And you know what? Fuck it. Before we go, let's just take a little this. God damn it. I literally just stopped the screen share. What a fucking moron! Take two. If you guys are enjoying the show, the party rages on 24/7 over in our Discord. The link is pinned to the top of the chat, and it's absolutely free to join 24/7. We're in there hanging out, having a great time. And guys, it is absolutely free. However, if you are a member of this channel here on YouTube, you can scroll right below that video and hit that join button. Starts at $2.99. There's a few different tiers, but $2.99 will get you in. It gets you members only live streams here on YouTube, all that other good stuff. But it opens up the full Discord server. So we've got the free chat that is open to anyone. Anybody can join and talk. But as you can see, that is just one of our channels. There's a bunch of different channels here, including our disciple chat for members only, our word of the day watch party, where we're talking about all this stuff. And of course, we have the voice channel here, where we are hanging out at this moment in the after party. And again, guys, remember, it is for members only, but if you click that link right now, you in there. Guys, I want to thank you so very, very much for hanging out. I know that you could be doing anything else in the world, and yet, whether you were here for me or Morty or Rob, you chose to hang out here, and that means a lot to me. That means a lot. So let's give a big shout out to the super chats. We had everybody coming. What the fuck? We had everybody coming through. Thank you guys so very, very much. Look at it. Just look at it. Just look at it. We got TV Viewer Ski with a $30 PayPal. But, of course, our sponsor of the stream with $20 and 10 gifted memberships. That's 2 different 5s. Thank you, thank you, thank you so very, very much. Guys, I don't know what else to tell you. I appreciate you so very, very much. If you are new here, please do hit that subscribe. I'm live every Monday, Wednesday, Friday, 8 p.m. Eastern, and sometimes whenever I feel like it, dropping new videos every single day. Once again, guys, this is Morty, and I have been your host, Lutch, a.k.a. the Indian Jesus, here to resurrect the second coming of common sense. Until next time, guys, we are out of here. Peace.